Chapter 4240. Thud thud thud. The crisp sound of footsteps approached from afar. When it stopped completely, Black Lotus saw a pair of feet in front of him. She raised her head with great difficulty and saw a pair of emotionless eyes looking down at her from above. You keep saying that I'm trash? Now, you should clearly realize who's the real trash, right? Zhuan said slowly, his voice emotionless. Black Lotus's beautiful eyes were filled with terror. She struggled to open her mouth and said, I'm a good-for-nothing. Fellow cultivator, please show mercy and spare my life. I'm willing to give you everything I have in exchange for my life. Zhuan's lips curled into a mocking smile as he said indifferently, if I kill you, I can also take away everything on your body. Since the result is the same, why should I spare your life? Black Lotus's pretty face changed slightly. Because Zhuan's breath had completely locked her, she did not dare to activate the transmitting formation of the bracelet even if she wanted to. Once she did so, she would definitely die. I am willing to recognize you as my master and serve you forever. No matter what you ask me to do, I will strictly respect your orders. Black Lotus lowered his arrogant head and said in a low voice. In order to show his determination, Black Lotus handed over his divine soul imprint without hesitation. Zhuan held Black Lotus's soul imprint in his right hand and sneered, You are so useless. Even if you recognize me as your master, what's the use to me? Black Lotus's face changed greatly. She kept kowtowing to Zhuan and begging for mercy. She only begged Zhuan to accept her as a servant, which was her only way to survive. Fellow Taoist Zhuan, this Black Lotus might not be of much use to you, but you might be interested in one of the demonic books in the Limitless Demon Sect. You must know that the Limitless Demon Sect once dominated several realms in the distant past, and the reason for that was because of that mysterious demon tome. Although the Devil Book is incomplete now, if you take this girl as your servant and let her steal the Devil Book for you, it might be of some help to you. Shen En, who had been watching from the side, walked up and put in a good word for Black Lotus. After all, his quota was given by the Limitless Demon Sect, so he owed the Limitless Demon Sect a favor. If Black Lotus died, it would be hard for him to explain to the Limitless Demon Sect after the big hunting. Demonic book? Zhuan raised his eyebrows, revealing a trace of interest. The primordial grandmist technique had the characteristic of gathering the strengths of hundreds of martial arts. The more powerful the cultivation technique, the more profound the primordial grandmist technique would be. Naturally, he could tell that the origin of the Limitless Demon Sect was not simple. The fact that the Limitless Demon Sect was able to dominate several realms by relying on the Demon Book was enough to prove that the Demon Book was extraordinary. He was really tempted. Black Lotus's expression changed drastically. That demonic book was a taboo of the Limitless Demon Sect. Although she was the strongest genius of the Limitless Demon Sect, she was not qualified to touch that demonic book. Moreover, the Devil Book was too badly damaged. Every generation of the Limitless Devil Sect masters had tried to cultivate the Devil Book, but they had all failed. Some of them had even suffered from chi deviation and died. Because of this, although the Limitless Demon Sect still had the demonic book, it was not coveted by powerful forces. If the demonic book was complete, the Limitless Demon Sect would not be able to keep it. Black Lotus felt Zhuan's gaze on her, and her delicate body trembled. She braced herself and said, Master, I'm willing to steal that demonic book for you. This is your only chance to live. In that case, I won't kill you, Zhu said. He kept Black Lotus's divine soul and sword essence. Without looking at Black Lotus, he went to Shan Lingyun, Rong Shuyao, and the others and took out healing elixirs to help them recover. Zhuan defeated Black Lotus so easily. Rong Shuyao and the other two were in disbelief, and their expressions were dull. On the other hand, Shan Lingyun was much calmer. She knew Zhuan's strength better than Rong Shuyao and the others. It was not difficult for him to defeat a cultivator who had just entered the universe tribulation. Fellow Taoist Zhuan, who are you? Why are you so powerful? Rong Shuyao looked at the young man who handed her the elixirs with a complicated expression. I'm just a nobody. I'm not worth mentioning, Zhuan said lightly. Rong Shuyao became silent. She was not stupid. She knew that this was his secret, so she did not dare to ask further. On the other side, Black Lotus was covered in injuries, and he struggled to get up. Her universe world had been shattered by Zhuan, and her injuries were extremely serious. It was very difficult for her to stand up now. However, she still gritted her teeth and slowly walked to Zhuan. She lowered her head and waited for her master's orders like a respectful servant. After Zhuan healed Shan Lingyun and the others' injuries, Black Lotus took out the bracelet and storage device with difficulty and handed them to Zhuan. Master, these are all the things I have. Please accept them. Black Lotus bowed and offered them with both hands. Zhuan did not stand on ceremony. He waved his sleeve and kept Black Lotus bracelet and storage device. He looked at Black Lotus, who was covered in blood, and said lightly, "Go and heal yourself. If you're lucky, your Qinkuan world can still be repaired." Black Lotus bowed respectfully to Zhuan. Then she went to a remote corner and sat cross-legged on the ground. Seeing Black Lotus in such a sorry state, the god of peace sighed. He came to Black Lotus and took out a crystal-clear elixir. He handed it to Black Lotus and said, "Take this elixir. It will help you restore your universe world." "This is the ultimate spirit recovery elixir?" Black Lotus looked at the elixir in shock. The ultimate spirit recovery elixir. The ultimate spirit recovery elixir was a divine elixir of the first heaven of the eternal level. It had a powerful healing effect, especially on the universe world of a cultivator who had undergone the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Only this elixir was extremely precious and rare. Even in the boundless demon sect, this kind of elixir was quite rare. Black Lotus subconsciously wanted to take the ultimate spirit recovery elixir. However, she thought of something and quickly stopped. She turned her head and looked at Zhuan, who was not far away. "Since it is something from the god of peace, you can accept it," Zhuan said expressionlessly. Only then did Black Lotus breathe a sigh of relief. She took the ultimate spirit recovery elixir and thanked the god of peace. Then she bowed to Zhuan. "Don't thank me. I am just returning the favor to the boundless demon sect. After giving this elixir, I will not act with you." The god of peace waved his hand and said, When Black Lotus swallowed the ultimate spirit recovery elixir and began to heal herself silently, Zhuan looked at the god of peace and asked lightly, "Fellow Taoist, you joined the great hunt in the Nuwa domain for the map fragment, right?" The god of peace was not surprised at all. When he met Zhuan, he had already guessed that the latter's purpose was the same as his. After all, with Zhuan's strength, there was no need for him to participate in this kind of great hunt. Chapter 42-41. It seems that the force behind you is also participating in this competition. Sigh. The competition this time is indeed very fierce. Even those hidden great powers have joined in? The chief of peace sighed, and the corners of his mouth were somewhat bitter. Zhuan's face was expressionless, but his heart was moved. It seemed that the god of peace thought that he was a descendant of a hidden force. In fact, when Su Zhou had found him and explained his intention to fight for the map fragment, he had already realized that the relic shown in the map fragment was definitely not ordinary. Only Su Zhou was very tight-lipped and did not reveal any more information to him. Now, it seemed that the god of peace should also know some inside information. Zhuan intended to test him. In fact, I am also a little confused about this so-called map fragment. The old man behind me only asked me to come to this big hunt to find a map fragment. I only know that the map fragment is related to a certain relic. As for what the relic is, the old man did not tell me in detail. I am still a little confused. Zhuan sighed and shook his head. He inadvertently revealed that there was an expert behind him who had been sent to fight for the map fragment. The god of peace suddenly understood. His question just now was also a test. Now that Zhuan said this, he was even more certain that Zhuan was a descendant of a hidden force. "Fellow Taoist Zhua, I know some rumors about the relic." Speaking of this, the god of peace did not say anything. Instead, he quietly sent a message to Zhuan. Ling Yun, Rong Shuyao, and the others were not stupid. They immediately knew that the god of peace's next words should be a secret that outsiders did not know. Therefore, he directly sent a message to Zhuan. After the god of peace sent the message, he looked at the silent Zhuowen and said rather sincerely, "Fellow Taoist Zhuo, the map fragment is actually the key to enter the relic. Moreover, you can bring a group of people with you at once. If you and I cooperate, we can share the quota of the map fragment equally." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "Forget about cooperation. However, this time I owe you a favor. If there are any difficulties in the big hunt, I will help you once." "Thank you very much. I'll take my leave now." The god of peace took a deep look at Zhuowen and left without looking back. Zhuowen silently watched God Enzu's departing figure, but his mind kept echoing the words that God Enzu had transmitted to him. The ruins recorded on the map fragment hidden in the Black Gold Mountain range were very likely the place where a mighty being from the Abyss realm had fallen. The Abyss domain was the most powerful domain among the 5 invincible domains. It was said that the foundation of the Abyss domain alone surpassed that of the other 4 invincible domains combined. It was the undisputed number 1 domain among the 100 domains. The foundation of the Abyss realm was the closest to that of the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. Any expert who came out of the Abyss realm was basically a peerless genius who was invincible among their peers. The 5 great invincible domains were far superior to the 9 great superdomains and the 16 great advanced domains. They were truly invincible domains in the 100 outer domains. By this showed how terrifying the Abyss realm was. Moreover, the mighty being from the Abyss realm was not an ordinary expert. The resources he brought with him were comparable to the total resources of an ordinary high domain. This was a terrifying number. If someone could obtain the resources of this mighty being, it was equivalent to sitting on the resources of an entire high domain. Although the heavenly list was the most authoritative list of the 100 domains, the list did not include the young geniuses from the 5 great invincible domains and the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. This was because the person in charge of the list from the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy knew that if the young geniuses from the 5 great invincible domains and the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy were included, the geniuses from the other domains were not qualified to enter the list at all. Almost all the disciples from the 5 great invincible domains and the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy occupied the list. According to God Enzu, Sakyamuni was extremely talented. He came out of nowhere and dominated the first place on the heavenly list, suppressing all the geniuses on the heavenly list. However, if the geniuses from the 5 great invincible domains and the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy were included, Sakyamuni could only be considered average at most. However, Yun also heard about Sakyamuni's recent movements from God Enzu. Ever since the Nadi Shiva had advanced to the Great Qian Kuan Tribulation, his speed of advancement had become even faster, attracting the attention of the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. It was said that there were already experts from the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy who had gone to the alternate ghost domain to make contact with Sakyamuni. If there were no accidents, Sakyamuni would be recruited by the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy and would even be heavily nurtured. During this period of time, the alternate ghost domain could be said to be in the limelight. To the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy was the recognized core of the 100 domains. They pursued education without discrimination and taught according to the aptitude of the students. Most of the famous experts in the 100 domains came from the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. Every year, there were countless young geniuses who wanted to enter the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. However, they could not get any attention from the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy at all. They were even very impolitely rejected by the Academy. If someone could enter the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy, they would definitely become a giant in the 100 domains in the future. It was precisely because of this unique status that the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy never took the initiative to recruit young geniuses. The geniuses who were recruited were basically 1 in a billion geniuses. Since ancient times, the number of geniuses that the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy had taken the initiative to recruit did not exceed 3 digits. Furthermore, most of them came from the invincible domain, while a small number came from the superior domain. This was also why the experts of the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy had personally gone to the alternate ghost domain to make contact with Sakyamuni, causing such a huge commotion in the 100 domains. After learning that Sakyamuni might enter the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy to further his studies, a sense of urgency rose in Zhuowen's heart. He knew that Sakyamuni's progress was extremely fast. If he could successfully enter the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy, his progress would be even faster. Naturally, Yun also felt a sense of crisis. I need to break through the heaven and earth tribulation as soon as possible. Wen's eyes were blazing with radiance. He had a premonition that once he successfully broke through the heaven and earth tribulation, his strength would truly undergo a transformation. At that time, he would truly have a foothold in the 100 domains. Disciple, Gu Xuandao has successfully passed through the heaven and earth tribulation, but his condition may not be very good. A crisp voice interrupted Zhuowen's thoughts. He raised his head and saw Shan Lingyun staring at him without blinking. Zhuowen then raised his head and looked in the direction of the Great Rift Valley. The huge Great Rift Valley was in a mess, and the dark clouds above were gradually dispersing. The black hole in the depths of the dark clouds was also slowly shrinking. Let's go and take a look, Wen said as he led the group to the Great Rift Valley. As Black Lotus's injuries were too serious, Yuan let her recuperate on the spot and did not allow her to follow. When they arrived at the depths of the Great Rift Valley, they discovered that the huge pagoda in the depths of the Great Rift Valley had turned into ruins and formed a huge bottomless pit. A charred and battered figure lay on the ground not far from the huge pit, motionless. Chapter 42-42. Zhuan came to the disheveled figure and flipped it over. He could tell from the charred figure that it was Gu Xuandao. At this moment, Gu Xuandao's qi was hanging by a thread. He was on the verge of death. Disciple, Gu Xuandao's life force is weakening. He can't hold on any longer. Shan Lingyun sighed. Rong Shuyao couldn't bear to see Gu Xuandao die. She was about to go through the Qian Kun tribulation, and she knew that she was weaker than Gu Xuandao. If Gu Xuandao couldn't make it, she would be in danger too. Zhuowen remained calm. He scanned Gu Xuandao's entire body with his powerful soul. He discovered that Gu Xuandao's life force was constantly draining away due to a strange tribulation force within him. It was constantly destroying his meridians and soul. This calamity force must have entered his body when he was going through the heavenly tribulation when he couldn't block it. Normally, once the calamity force entered one's body, one would be dead unless an expert at the cosmic form level came to help. Fortunately, Gu Xuandao had met Zhuowen. After cultivating the primordial grandmist technique, the god force in Zhuowen's body had the characteristics of being all-inclusive and all-encompassing. Gu Xuandao, the calamity force in Gu Xuandao's body, was hard to remove for other ancient star transformation or Qian Kun tribulation cultivators. However, it wasn't hard for Zhuowen. Zhuowen tapped Gu Xuandao's glabella with 2 fingers on his right hand. His divine sense drilled into Gu Xuandao's glabella and absorbed the calamity force that was wreaking havoc in his divine soul. The process was extremely painful. Gu Xuandao's body twitched violently like a fish that had fallen onto dry land. When Zhuowen successfully absorbed Gu Xuandao's divine soul and the calamity force in his body, Gu Xuandao collapsed onto the ground and was on the verge of death. Rong Shuyao and the rest were shocked to find that the aura in Gu Xuandao's body started to strengthen rapidly. His life force was also recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gu Xuandao suddenly opened his eyes and floated in the air. His aura became stronger and stronger and swept across the entire Great Rift Valley like a tidal wave. At the same time, an illusory world started to appear behind Gu Xuandao. As time passed, the illusory world started to solidify and turned into a real world. It's the Qian Kun world. Brother Gu has successfully formed his Kun world. He has succeeded. Rong Shuyao's beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. She couldn't help but look at Zhuowen. She knew that this miraculous scene was completely created by this young man in front of her. After Gu Xuandao's Qian world was finally formed, tribulation force began to appear in the vast world. The initial tribulation power in Sun Dao's Qian world only had the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It was slightly inferior to Black Lotus's initial Qian world. After that, as he continued to cultivate Guxundo, his Qian Kun world would continue to be perfected, and the calamity power contained within it would also become stronger. Gu Xuandao's eyes lit up. He put away his Kuan worlds and slowly landed in front of Jun. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Jun. Brother Zhua, I will never forget your kindness. Gu Xuandao almost choked with sobs. He was crying tears of joy. Moreover, he knew that his success was all because of Zhuowen. He really owed Zhuowen too much. Get up. You and I know each other. Removing the calamity force in your body is a piece of cake for me. Why shouldn't I help? Zhuan waved his hand. Gu Xuandao smiled bitterly. This was a problem that even a Qian Kun tribulation expert could not solve. The young man in front of him said that it was a piece of cake. If other cultivators knew about this, they would start to doubt themselves. The first stage of the big hunting mission is about to end. Let's just wait here for the time limit. There's no need to run around anymore. Zhuowen suggested. Gu Xuandao, Rong Xuyao, and the others naturally had no objections. Unknowingly, they had already followed Zhuowen's lead. After they left the Great Rift Valley, Gu Xuandao was shocked when he saw Black Lotus. After learning that Zhuan had killed all the members of the Boundless Demon Sect, leaving only Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao was relieved. They found a secluded place near the Great Rift Valley and began to wait for the time limit of the first stage to come. Zhuan sat cross-legged on a protruding rock. He silently sensed the evil qi in the depths of the Black Bone Wasteland. He began to tirelessly absorb the vigorous evil qi and integrate it into his own divine power. As the time limit approached, the competition in the periphery of the Black Gold Mountain range became more and more intense. Many members who had failed to collect enough Qiankuan liquid gave up searching for the ruins in order to meet the requirements. Instead, they began to frantically snatch the Qiankuan liquid from other teams. For a time, many teams in the Black Gold Mountain range were jittery. Fierce battles between other teams could be seen everywhere. The speed at which teams were eliminated became extremely fast. After recuperating for a few days, Black Lotus barely managed to completely restore her Qiankuan world. Then, she received Zhuowen's permission to go out and hunt for the Qiankuan liquid from other teams. She had already given the Qiankuan liquid to Zhuowen. The time for the first stage was almost up. If she wanted to pass the first stage smoothly, she had to go to other teams and snatch 10,000 drops of Qiankuan liquid. Although Black Lotus had not fully recovered from her injuries, she was, after all, an expert of the great calamity of Qiankuan. Most of the teams in the Di Luo City division were no match for her. On the last day of the first stage, Black Lotus returned to where Zhuowen and the others were. At the same time, she brought a lot of Qiankuan liquid with her. Black Lotus gave more than 10,000 drops of Qiankuan liquid to Zhuowen. Then, she sat aside silently and continued to recuperate. Clang. After the time limit was up, the majestic voices of the city lords sounded in the sky of the various divisions in the Wujin mountain range. Everyone, the time limit for the first stage of the Great Hunting Mission is up. Next, please follow the direction pointed by your bracelets. After gathering, someone will come to check the Qiankuan liquid in your bracelets and take them away. Also, I want to warn you. From now on, you are not allowed to do anything without permission. If you are found to be doing anything, you will be eliminated immediately. Now, please follow the guidance of your bracelets to gather. In the sky, as soon as Ling Luo, the city lord of Di Luo City, finished speaking, Zhuowen found that the bracelet on his right wrist began to emit a red light, pointing straight to the west. He looked up and found that the bracelets of Gu Xuandao, Rong Xuyao, Shan Lingyun, and the others were also the same. They were pointing in the same direction as him. Let's go. Let's go to the gathering point. Wen stood up and led the crowd to the west. Outside. After Zhuowen left, many teams in the periphery of the Wujin mountain range also set off and headed to the gathering point pointed by the red light. Clang. In the bone forest, there were 3 figures in an extremely sorry state. They had greasy hair and dirty faces, and were covered in wounds. Clang. When they heard Ling Luo's voice, they all let out a sigh of relief. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Chapter 42-43. The 3 of them were Duan Yuki, Luan Yu, and Zhou Yu of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Over this period of time, they had been very careful and had followed suit. This had allowed them to survive the 1-month deadline without being eliminated by the other teams. However, this also caused the 3 of them to be unable to gather 10,000 drops of Chinkuan tribulation liquid during this period of time. Sigh. During this period of time, we were basically hiding here and there. We had no chance to come into contact with the ruins, let alone take the initiative to snatch from the other teams. Now, we only have 1,000 drops of Chinkuan tribulation liquid, which is too far away from 10,000 drops. It seems that we still can't escape the fate of being eliminated. Duan Myuki sighed softly and muttered to himself. Luan Yu's beautiful eyes flickered as she said in a deep voice, "Senior brother Duan, we still have hope. Senior brother Zhua and junior sister Dan might have gathered enough Chinkuan tribulation liquid." Duan Myuki sneered. "Junior sister Luan Yu, you trust them too much. That Zhuowen's strength is indeed not bad, but that's all. With him and a burden, do you think they can gather 10,000 drops of Chinkuan tribulation liquid? I think they might have already been eliminated, or they might even have died. Junior sister Luan Yu, don't hold such unrealistic hopes." Zhou Yu also nodded in agreement. "Senior brother Duan is right. Junior sister Luan Yu, you also saw that in this year's big hunt, every team's strength is not simple. Some teams that were originally about the same strength as us are much stronger now. Even if the 5 of us from the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion were not separated, we might not be able to compete, let alone when we were divided into 2 teams. Speaking of which, the sect leader was really a little muddle-headed this time. She actually gave 2 spots to 2 outsiders. She caused us to be eliminated." Duan Myuki's eyes were slightly gloomy. "I actually gave the sect leader some advice. Unfortunately, she still did things her own way, and in the end, it caused this big mistake." Duan Myuki and Zhou Yu went back and forth, criticizing Zhuowen and Yuji, and putting most of the blame on Zhuowen and Yuji. They did not know that the main reason they were eliminated was that they were not strong enough. Now, they were just finding excuses for themselves. Wan Jade couldn't stand it any longer. However, she was smart enough to know that it was useless to retort now. She changed the topic and said, "Let's go. Let's go to the assembly point first. If we're late, we'll be breaking the rules." Only then did Duan Myuki and Zhou Yu stop complaining. The 3 of them headed in the direction indicated by the bracelet. On the outskirts of the Black Gold Mountain Range, numerous teams were flying towards the west like flying swords. Most of these teams were covered in dust and grime. They didn't dare to make a move when they met each other. Instead, they hurried on with their journey in silence. In the westernmost part of the Black Bone Wasteland, which was also the border that connected to the depths of the Black Gold Mountain Range, stood an invisible barrier. In front of the barrier, a figure emitting golden light stood there silently. In front of this golden figure, a huge square was erected out of thin air. Looking carefully, the style of this square was almost the same as the Diluo Square. Here at this moment, there were already quite a few groups that had arrived at the square. After seeing the figure standing at the end of the square, they obediently stood there and waited. Zhuowen and the others arrived at the square soon after. However, when they arrived, most of the practitioners in the square couldn't help but gather around them. The reason was none other than Black Lotus of the Limitless Demon Sect and Gu Xuandao of the World Annihilation Ridge Sect were in Zhuowen's group. The news that the 2 of them had advanced to the Great Tribulation of Universe had already spread. Most of them knew that in the first stage of this great hunt, there were already 2 geniuses who had advanced to the Great Tribulation of Universe in Diluo City's district. Black Lotus's successful breakthrough was expected by everyone. However, they didn't expect that Gu Xuandao would also have a breakthrough. This was beyond most of their expectations. Gu Xuandao, although the World Annihilation Ridge sect behind Gu Xuandao was powerful, and Gu Xuandao's talent was indeed extraordinary, there was still a gap between him and the strongest geniuses of the Great Compassion Sword sect, Qiantian Prefecture, and the True Martial sect. Now Gu Xuandao had caught up with them. The strongest geniuses of the 3 sects didn't feel good about it. Witty in the square, most of the practitioners' attention was on Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao, but they ignored Zhuowen, who was walking at the front. Zhuowen's aura was not bad, but he was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. In their eyes, he wasn't even worth mentioning. Wide at the front of the square, the shining figure also noticed Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao. His calm eyes revealed a hint of appreciation. Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao, congratulations on advancing to the Great Tribulation of Universe. Stand at the front. The shining golden light gradually faded away. At first glance, it was a middle-aged man with a serious face. At this moment, there was a hint of a smile on his serious face. In his opinion, Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao had already advanced to the Great Tribulation of Universe in the first stage of the Great Hunt. In fact, they had already seized the opportunity. In the following stages of the Great Hunt, they would become stronger and stronger. After all, the law of the strong becoming stronger and the weak becoming weaker was unchanging. Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao were a little hesitant. They couldn't help but look at Zhuan beside them. Zhuan nodded and said, "Stand at the front. You can move freely in the next stage of the Great Hunt. You don't have to follow me." Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao hesitated for a while, then nodded. They followed the middle-aged man's instructions and landed at the front of the square under the envious gazes of the crowd. Tuan, Shan Lingyun, Rong Shuyao, and the others landed at a remote position at the back of the square. Taoist Zhuan, this is Zhu Wenshan, the deputy city governor of Di Luo City. His position in Di Luo City is second only to the city governor, Ling Luo. I didn't expect him to be the one presiding over the Great Hunt. Rong Shuyao whispered to Zhuan. Zhuan nodded and didn't pay too much attention to it. He could tell at a glance that Zhu Wenshan's cultivation should be at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe. His strength should be considered good, but he might not be able to catch Zhuan's eye. More and more teams landed on the square. Even so, the square still appeared much more spacious. Zhuan remembered that before entering the Black Gold Mountain Range, the Dilua Plaza was packed with people. But now it was so empty. It could be seen that the number of teams eliminated in the first stage of the Great Hunt was immeasurable. Zhuan? You haven't been eliminated? Suddenly, a surprised voice was heard. 3 figures landed in a remote corner not far from Zhuan. Zhuan looked over and saw the 3 embarrassed people. His eyes were calm as he said, "The 3 of you, long time no see. You're not bad. You haven't been eliminated." Chapter 42-44. These 3 people were naturally the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilions Duan Yuki, Luan Yu, and Zhou Yu. They had rushed here in a hurry, and with their weight, they naturally did not dare to stand near the front of the plaza. They could only choose to stand in a remote corner at the very back. While Zhuan happened to be nearby as well, so the 2 teams bumped into each other. Duan Wen Muqi saw Zhuan's nonchalant manner. She was somewhat annoyed in her heart. She sneered and said, "Our sect master is really blind. To actually hand over 2 quotas to an arrogant person like you who only knows how to boast. I remember that back then, you said in front of the sect master that you would lead our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion to be number 1. Now, I don't think you can even pass the first round, let alone first place? What a joke." Duan Ling Tian said. Mu Qi ridiculed without any trace of politeness. Zhou Yu and Luan Yu, who were following behind her, did not say anything. Originally, Luan Yu still held some hope that Zhuan would be lucky. But when she saw Zhuan standing in the most remote corner, she couldn't help but feel disappointed. If Zhuan had really collected enough Qiankuan Tribulation liquid, he would not be standing in such a remote corner of the square. Only those teams that couldn't gather enough Cosmic Tribulation liquid and didn't want to lose face in front of everyone would choose such a remote location. Rong Shuyao looked displeased. Just as he was about to retort, he was stopped by Zhuan. "I have never gone back on my words. I owe your sect master a favor and will naturally help your Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion seize first place." Zhuan said coolly, "You really won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. I'd like to see how you embarrass yourself when the Cosmic Tribulation liquid is checked later." Duan Yuki mocked loudly. Zhou Fault and Luan Yu maintained their silence. They were increasingly disappointed in Zhuan, so they simply couldn't be bothered to speak to him. Zhuan ignored Duan Yuki and instead closed his eyes, silently waiting for Zhu Wenshan's examination. Duan Yuki saw that Jun was ignoring him. Although he was a little angry, he did not lose his temper. Instead, he silently waited for the moment when Jun would embarrass himself. Rong Yuyao looked at Duan Yuki's smug look and secretly shook his head. This disciple of Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion was really short-sighted. He didn't know Zhuowen's ability at all. Moreover, even if Jun didn't have any ability as a teammate, why did they have to be so hostile? After all, in the big hunting game, their enemies were teams from other forces, not their own teammates. What else could it be but foolishness to fight among themselves? In front of the square, Zhu Wenshan waited for a while before he finally spoke. It's about time. I'm Zhu Wenshan, the Vice City Lord of Di Luo City. I'm the inspector responsible for checking the cosmic tribulation liquid in your bracelets. At this point, Zhu Wenshan's aura suddenly became much colder as he said, Everyone, don't try to play any tricks on your bracelets. Don't think that we won't notice your little tricks. Mood. They were the best in this great hunting sect. Their future was limitless. His eyes softened a little. Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao nodded. They stepped forward and handed their bracelets to Zhu Wenshan. Wenshan checked the bracelets, then put them away. He nodded and said, Not bad. You two have reached the standard. After Black Lotus and Gu Xuandao passed, they stood on the other side and waited. Teams lined up in the square in an orderly manner, waiting for Zhu Wenshan's inspection. The teams in front of the square were all strong teams that had reached the standard of universe tribulation liquid. Therefore, Zhu Wenshan's inspection showed that they all met the standard. Due to the intense competition, only 1/10 of the original number of teams remained. Very quickly, the teams were pushed to the back. 8,000 drops of universe tribulation liquid. Not up to standard. Wenshan's eyes were cold as he announced the fate of a team. He saw that the members of that team had drooped their heads, and all of them had sullen faces. 4,000 drops of universe tribulation liquid. Not up to standard. 6,000 drops of universe tribulation liquid. Not up to standard. Not up to standard. Next, the teams that did not meet the standard were inspected one by one. Zhu Wenshan expressionlessly confiscated the bracelets of these teams. In the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion's team, Duan Yuki and the other two's faces were pale. As they watched the teams being announced one after another, their hearts were about to jump out of their throats. The announcement of the elimination was getting closer and closer. Duan Yuki clenched his fists slightly and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He couldn't help but look at Zhuowen, who was not far away, and couldn't help but feel angry. Zhuowen, what are you pretending for? You're about to be eliminated, and you're still so calm. Do you really think there will be a miracle? Duan Yuki seemed to want to vent all his anger on Zhu. His tone was very impolite. Zhuowen looked coldly at Duan Yuki, who was acting like a shrew, and said, Shut up. What does it have to do with you? Zhuowen's retort completely angered Duan Yuki. His face was ferocious, and he laughed in anger. Good. You ungrateful ingrate. If it weren't for our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion giving you a spot, would you be qualified to participate in the Great Hunt? Now that our team is about to be eliminated, you still don't know how to repent. You look so smug. I think you're deliberately trying to harm our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Zhuowen looked indifferently at Duan Yuki. In his heart, he felt that Duan Yuki was not worth it. Although this Duan Yuki was the strongest genius of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion, he was a narrow-minded guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. His vision was too low, and it was difficult for him to be of great use. In the future, if the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion were to be handed over to this person, it would probably completely harm the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Wan Yu and Zhou Yu frowned slightly. They also thought that Duan Yuki was looking for trouble. However, Duan Yuki was their eldest senior brother after all, and they did not dare to disobey him. Anyway, you're also a piece of trash. It's the same whether we have you or not. Now, you're no longer a member of our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team. You're just a piece of trash who will only drag us down. Duan Yuki became angrier as he spoke. He actually planned to kick Zhuowen out of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team. Senior brother Duan, that's not good. Senior brother Zhuo was invited by master after all. If you kick him out of the team just like that? Wan Yu frowned. Duan Yuki shook his head. Junior sister, I'm the team leader now. I have the right. Are you sure you want me to leave the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team? Juan asked with narrowed eyes. But, are you regretting it? However, it's useless even if you regret it. Even if you kneel in front of me now, I'll still kick you out of the team. Duan Yuki said proudly. Juan shook his head and looked deeply at Duan Yuki. Why should I regret it? As long as you don't regret it. Why should I regret it? What an idiot. Duan Yuki said proudly. Juan ignored Duan Yuki and took out the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team emblem and threw it to Duan Yuki. Add a bookmark for easy reading. Please remember the domain name of this book. Bird Book Website Mobile Edition Website. Chapter 42-45. Duan Yuki put away the team badge and glanced sideways at Jun. Remember, you still owe the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion a favor. Without the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion, you wouldn't even be qualified to participate in the Great Hunt. After that, Duan Yuki shook his head and ignored Zhuan. Wan Yu wanted to say something but stopped. She glanced at Zhuan with a trace of apology and guilt in her beautiful eyes. The Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Suddenly, Zhu Wenshan, who was standing at the front of the square, announced the name of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Duan Yuki, who was still a little arrogant, immediately became nervous. He carefully walked over with Wan Yu and Zhou Yu. They are really short-sighted. They have simply thrown away a real treasure like Zhuan. The Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion has really disappointed me. Rong Shuyao shook his head and felt that it was not worth it for Zhuan. At this point, Rong Shuyao could not help but look at Zhuan and ask, Zhuan, you are not a member of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion now. Why don't you temporarily form a team with the Fire Spirit sect? When Shan shook his head and said, no need. We can represent ourselves. As long as the two of us can take out 20,000 drops of cosmic tribulation liquid, we can also pass smoothly. Yu Yao nodded, but she was a little disappointed. If she could rope in Zhuan to form a team with the Fire Spirit sect, the Fire Spirit sect would be like a tiger that had grown wings. They would definitely be able to surpass everyone in the Great Hunt. The three members of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion naturally did not have enough cosmic tribulation liquid and were announced to be eliminated by Zhu Wenshan. They walked dejectedly to the gathering place of the eliminated teams. All of them looked dispirited. When we get out, we must complain to the sect master about Jun. It was because of him that we were eliminated. Duan Yuki grumbled. Mu Qi grumbled indignantly. Her gaze landed on Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun as she realized that it was their turn. It's finally their turn. Didn't Zhuan look like he had a card up his sleeve? When he can't take out enough cosmic tribulation liquid, let's see how he can pretend. Duan Yuki said maliciously. Senior apprentice brother Duan, even if the sect master didn't take out the quota, with our team strength, it's very difficult to advance. Luan Yu said somewhat unbearably. Junior sister Luan Yu, aren't you siding too much with that Zhuowen? Our elimination was all because of this Zhuowen, not because of us at all. Duan Yuki said unhappily. Luan Yu shrunk her neck. She was still a little afraid of Duan Yuki and did not dare to open her mouth to refute. It had begun. That Zhuowen is about to be examined. Let's see how he embarrasses himself. Duan Yuki immediately perked up and stared at Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun. The two of you should be from the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion, right? The Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion has already been eliminated. What are you guys still coming to inspect for? Zhu Wenshan glanced at Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun and waved his hand impatiently. He naturally knew the situation of each team. When he saw Zhuowen, he immediately knew which team Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun were in. We have already left the team. Now, we will turn in the Qiankuan Tribulation liquid as individuals. With that, Zhuowen handed the bracelets to Zhu Wenshan, and Shan Lingyun followed suit. Zhu Wenshan took the bracelets from the two of them and said with a frown, since the two of you have left the team, you should know the rules. Since you are already individuals, if you want to pass, each of you must have 10,000 Qiankuan Tribulation liquid. That's 20,000 Qiankuan tribulation liquid for the two of you. Do you have that much Qiankuan tribulation liquid? Wenshan was deeply suspicious. The divine jade ancient pavilion was not strong to begin with. They could not even take out 10,000 drops of Qiankuan tribulation liquid, let alone the two of them who had left the team. Why don't you take a look? Zhuowen said with a faint smile. Zhu Wenshan raised his eyebrows and did not speak nonsense. He opened the bracelets of the two of them. When he found that the Qiankuan tribulation liquid on the bracelets had indeed reached the standard, he nodded and said, "You have reached the standard. Let's go to the teams that have advanced." Wenshan nodded and pulled Shan Lingyun to the other side. All the teams that had advanced were there. They have advanced? Mu Qi was dumbfounded. He stared blankly at Zhuan and Shan Lingyun, who were slowly walking to the teams that had advanced. The two of them have left the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. They should be alone now. Each of them needs to take out 10,000 drops of Qiankuan tribulation liquid. Could it be that they have collected 20,000 drops of Qiankuan tribulation liquid? Zhou Yu exclaimed in shock. Senior brother Duan, we were wrong. Senior brother Zhou does have the strength to lead our team to first place, but he took the initiative to kick them out of the team. Wan Yu said regretfully. Duan Mu Qi felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and he was completely stunned. When he regained his senses, he couldn't help but roar out, "Deputy City Lord, did you see wrongly? That Zhuowen and Shan Lingyun can't possibly reach the standard, right?" As soon as Duan Yuki finished speaking, a terrifying wave of air surged over. Then, Duan Yuki let out a muffled groan and flew backwards. He crashed heavily on the ground and involuntarily spat out a mouthful of blood. Who do you think you are? Do I need you to remind me? Do you think I don't know if they have reached the standard? Zhu Wenshan looked coldly at the seriously injured Duan Yuki and reprimanded him without any trace of politeness. Duan Yuki clutched his chest and struggled to stand up. He quickly lowered his head and apologized. Zhu Wenshan was too lazy to pursue the matter and continued to inspect the teams behind him. Wow. So those two are members of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. I was wondering why they were representing themselves. They were actually kicked out of the team by the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. This Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion is really out of their minds. They clearly have two strong teammates, and they have collected enough Qiankuan tribulation liquid, but they actually kicked them out of the team. Instead, the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion eliminated themselves. They are really courting death. Duan Yuki was speechless. Mu Qi reluctantly returned to the team and heard a group of people whispering around him. When he heard it, he was so angry that he almost spat out another mouthful of blood. Damn it, this Zhuan is really despicable. He clearly collected enough Qiankuan tribulation liquid, but he didn't tell us in advance. He only revealed it after he left our team. This guy is so scheming and despicable, Duan Yuki said through gritted teeth. Wan Yu and Zhou Yu looked at the unrepentant Duan Yuki, their hearts full of disappointment. Ming in the beginning, it was Duan Yuki who provoked Zhuan and targeted him everywhere. Moreover, it was Duan Yuki's idea to kick him out of the team. Now, Duan Yuki was saying that it was all Zhuowen's fault. They didn't realize before that Duan Yuki was a completely self-centered and obstinate person. Now, they finally saw Duan Yuki's true colors. Finally, Zhu Wenshan finished inspecting everyone. He took out white jade tokens and handed them to the cultivators who had advanced. Bookmark it for easy reading. Chapter 42-46. This white jade token is a higher grade teleportation artifact than the bracelet. At the same time, it is a larger storage artifact. Once you enter the depths of the Golden Crow Mountain range, all the resources you obtain must be stored in this white jade token. If you use the resources in the Golden Crow Mountain range, we will not restrict you, but if you want to bring them out, you must pay a third of the resources. Similarly, do not play any tricks. This jade token also has a surveillance array, so your little tricks will not escape our eyes. Zhu Wenshan handed over the white jade token and instructed in a loud voice. Everyone, if there are no objections, the cultivators who have advanced will enter the Golden Crow Mountain range, and the cultivators who have been eliminated will follow me out. This is the final stage of the Great Hunt, and the time limit is 3 months. Once the time is up, everyone will be automatically teleported out. As Zhu Wenshan spoke, he waved his sleeve and the invisible barrier behind him gradually disappeared, completely opening the passage to the depths of the Golden Crow Mountain range to the cultivators who had advanced. Immediately, some cultivators could not wait to use their movement skills and quickly disappeared into the vast mountain range behind the barrier. Wait, Vice City Lord, this Yuan is a member of our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Now that he has advanced, our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion should also advance with him. Suddenly, Duan Yuki loudly protested. Zhu Wenshan turned his head and looked at Duan Yuki with interest and said, "Oh, is that so? I heard that this Yuan has already left your Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Now, he is only representing himself and has nothing to do with your Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion." Duan Yuki's expression froze for a moment before he looked at Zhuowen and said with an unfriendly expression, "Yin, you still owe our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion a favor. Now is the time for you to return the favor. Now, I am giving you a chance to return to the team and become a member of our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Are you still not going to agree?" Zhuowen looked at Duan Yuki with some amusement. This fellow was still as stubborn as ever. He was still using such a tone to speak to him. Moreover, he was asking him to return to the team and even spoke to him as if he was giving alms. Did he really think that Yuan had no temper? I've said it before, I owe your sect master Eugene a favor. Who do you think you are? If you want me to leave the team, I'll leave. If you want me to return, I'll return? Jun shook his head. If this Duan Yuki changed for the better and knelt down to admit his wrongdoings, he might still be able to help the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion's team out of consideration for Jadeshire. Unfortunately, Duan Yuki was too egotistical. He actually dared to threaten him. What did he take Zhuowen for? You ungrateful ingrate. Our sect master must be blind to actually give the quota to someone like you. Just you wait. After we get out, our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion will definitely not let you off. Duan Yuki roared angrily. Zhuowen's expression gradually turned cold. He looked at Duan Yuki and said, "Are you threatening me? I hate it when people threaten me. So what if I threaten you? You're just an itinerant cultivator. Who do you think you are? Is it very difficult for our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion to kill you without anyone knowing?" Duan Yuki said somewhat crazily. "Senior apprentice brother Duan, that's enough. Don't say any more." Luan Yu hurriedly stopped him. Scram. What a traitor. What if I say it? If it weren't for him hiding, would we have been eliminated? Calling him an ingrate is an understatement. This person is a despicable person. Duan Yuki violently flung Luan Yu away. Just as he was about to curse again, he felt his vision darken. Then, a sharp pain came from his cheek, and his entire body flew up. Jun appeared in front of Duan Yuki as fast as lightning. He punched Duan Yuki's face, sending him flying. Jun did not stop there. He raised his palm and unceremoniously slapped Duan Yuki, who was still in midair. Every slap could be heard clearly. And every time this happened, Duan Yuki would fly up again, his entire body spinning at high speed. Bang, bang, bang. Jun bombarded Duan Yuki's body with every move. His fists sunk into his flesh, and his strength soared. Then, Zhuowen's palm landed heavily on Duan Yuki's back. With a crack, Duan Yuki screamed in pain and fell heavily to the ground from midair, smashing a large pit several feet wide. In the large pit, Duan Yuki's limbs were strangely twisted, and his cheeks were swollen like a pig's head. He could not be seen clearly. You crippled my cultivation? What a ruthless person. I'm not done with you. Duan Yuki finally showed a look of fear, but his mouth was still dirty. He cursed and swore, not realizing his mistake at all. Luan Yu shouted. Luan Yu suddenly shouted. Duan Yuki, who was originally cursing, abruptly stopped. He looked at Luan Yu, who had a cold gaze in disbelief. Junior apprentice sister Luan Yu? Duan Yuki was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Enough. Senior apprentice brother Duan, I respected you as the eldest senior apprentice brother, so I didn't scold you. But you've gone too far. Senior apprentice brother Zhua has never offended you. He hasn't even gone against you. It's you who has been targeting him at every turn. He indeed took our quota, but he has the ability to lead our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team to advance. If not for you being obstinate and opinionated, kicking him out of the team without permission, our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion would have already advanced. And not only did you not apologize, you even lectured Senior Apprentice Brother Zhua with a commanding tone. Moreover, you even slandered and insulted him like this. Think about it yourself. Wasn't the one who caused us to be in this situation now you? Luan Yu said the words in her heart in one breath. Junior Apprentice Sister Luan Yu is right. Senior Apprentice Brother Duan, you've gone too far. We'll naturally recount this matter to Sect Master when we return, Zhou Yu said with a light sigh. Junior Apprentice Brother Zhou Yu, even you. Duan Yuki looked at Zhou Yu in disbelief. Zhou Yu completely ignored Duan Yuki. Instead, he bowed to Zhuan and apologized. Senior Apprentice Brother Zhua, we misunderstood you. Sorry. Luan Yu also hurriedly followed and apologized. Zhuan waved his hand and said, I didn't take it to heart. If Duan Yuki hadn't gone too far, I wouldn't have bothered to do anything. In fact, if he could recognize his mistake and apologize to me just now, I would have returned to your Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team. Unfortunately, he had chosen a different method. Therefore, I can't afford to be associated with your team. Let's go. Zhou Yu and Luan Yu's hearts were filled with disappointment. They hated Duan Yuki even more. If not for Duan Yuki, their Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion team would not have fallen to such a state. Senior Apprentice Brother Zhua, can't you give us another chance? Zhou Yu and Luan Yu asked, unwilling to give up. Let's go. When Shan shook his head and ignored Zhou Yu and Luan Yu, he brought Shan Lingyun and rushed into the depths of the Golden Crow Mountain range. Looking at Zhuowen's back, Luan Yu and Zhou Yu revealed an extremely regretful expression. They escorted the almost paralyzed Duan Yuki and silently followed Zhu Wenshan out of the Golden Crow Mountain range. After everyone left, the barrier that separated the outer and inner parts of the Golden Crow Mountain range was restored. Chapter 42-47. In Di Luo Square, Zhu Wenshan led a group of eliminated teams and descended like a beam of golden light. You have been eliminated, return to your teams. You are just bystanders now, no longer the main characters of the Great Hunt. Zhu Wenshan waved his hand lightly. Follow. The many teams that came out with Zhu Wenshan were all dejected and returned to their respective sects. Yu Ji, who was standing in a remote corner of the plaza, naturally noticed Duan Yuki, Luan Yu, and Zhou Yu. Especially when he saw Duan Yuki being carried back by Luan Yu and Zhou Yu, his expression greatly shook as he hurriedly went up to greet them. What's going on? You were eliminated? Where's Zhuan? Jade Shi asked doubtfully. Luan Yu and Zhou Yu gave a wry smile, lowering their heads in shame and stammering. Sect Master, you must uphold justice for me. That Zhuowen is an ingrate. Not only did he withdraw from the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilions group, he even attacked me and severely injured me. This kind of person has committed a heinous crime and is unpardonable. Duan Yuki immediately complained in a tearful voice. What? There was such a thing? Yu Ji's pretty face changed slightly and her eyebrows furrowed. A trace of anger rose in her heart, but she soon realized that something was wrong. Although she did not have much contact with Zhuowen, she could still see some of Zhuowen's character. It was unlikely that he would do something so immoral. Is that Zhuowen biting the hand that feeds him for no reason? If that's the case, why didn't he eliminate you in the Golden Crow Mountain range? Yu Ji stared at Duan Yuki and asked in a deep voice. Duan Yuki was stunned and was about to explain when Luan Yu couldn't help but speak. Senior brother Duan, shut up. Everything was caused by you, yet you still have the face to speak ill of senior brother Zhua? You really disappoint me. Luan Yu's shout interrupted Duan Yuki and also attracted Yu Ji's attention. Luan Yu, tell me, what's going on here? Yu Ji noticed Duan Yuki's panic and couldn't help but look at Luan Yu and ask her to tell the truth. Luan Yu glanced coldly at Duan Yuki and recounted everything that had happened in the Golden Crow Mountain range in full detail. After she finished speaking, Yuji's face completely turned cold. She looked coldly at Duan Myuki and said, Duan Myuki, look at what you've done. You've destroyed our divine jade ancient pavilion's only hope. And now you're slandering Juon with justice. Duan Myuki's of divine jade ancient pavilion's words? Of course, of that Juon? He is not even a member of our divine jade ancient pavilion. Why should we give him the spot? Of course, I of the ancient pavilion. Up until now, Mu Chi still hadn't realized his mistake. In his eyes, everything he did was right. If others didn't follow his wishes, it was wrong. Jade Sure shook his head in disappointment and said, Duan Myuki, you've really disappointed me too much. From now on, you're no longer a disciple of the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. Our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion can't afford a genius like you. Duan Myuki was dumbstruck. When he came back to his senses, he hurriedly begged, Master, I'm your proudest disciple. How can you chase me out of the pavilion? Also, I was almost crippled by that Juon. You have to treat my injuries. Otherwise, I'll be a cripple in the future. I'll be dead. I've said it before. Our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion can't afford a genius like you. Yuji said coldly. Duan Myuki's eyes were red as he roared, Master, how can you be so biased? I'm your personal disciple. What is that Juon? He's just a foreign itinerant cultivator. Why are you so biased towards him? Yuji silently looked at the crazed Duan Myuki and said disappointedly, Duan Myuki, you still don't understand? Since that's the case, let me give you another piece of information. That Juon was introduced to me by Su Zhou and Ziyu. Su Zhou? Ziyu? Duan Myuki's pupils constricted. He naturally knew these two people. They were the fourth and fifth peerless geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly List. Their backgrounds were extremely powerful. These two people were definitely existences that he looked up to. Then Zhuowen, who was introduced by these two people, was probably at least a genius of their level. Duan Myuki at this moment, Duan Myuki was suddenly enlightened. No wonder Zhuowen was so powerful. No wonder he could confidently say that he could lead their team to first place. Duan Myuki finally couldn't help but burst into tears. Do you know what you did wrong? It's a pity that it's too late to know now. You're on your own now. Yuji finished speaking and left the square with Luan Yu and Zhou Yu. Only Duan Myuki was left on the ground, wailing. In the depths of the Wujin Mountains, Yuan reluctantly left the Black Bone Wasteland. Although the Black Bone Wasteland was huge, it couldn't extend endlessly into the depths of the Wujin Mountains. Now Yuan already had the qualifications to directly absorb the evil aura in the depths of the Black Bone Wasteland. If he wasn't in a hurry to go to the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain, Yuan might not have planned to go deep and directly cultivate in the Black Bone Wasteland. As for the remnant map that Su Zhou gave him, Yuan didn't care about it for the time being. Compared to the whereabouts of Moyan Wushang, the remnant map wasn't even worth mentioning. Wait, he only considered looking for the remnant map after he received news about Moyan Wushang from the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain. First, on a small hill, Yuan stopped. He looked at Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao, Rong Shuyao, and the others behind him and said, Everyone, now is the final stage of the big hunt. You don't need to follow me anymore. You can go on your own. This is my communication jade talisman. If there's anything, you can use it to contact me. Zhuan passed the communication jade talisman to Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao, and Rong Shuyao. Then he left with Shan Lingyun. The 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain that Zhuan was going to was guarded by the Nuwa clan. This was his secret. Naturally, he couldn't let Black Lotus and the others follow him. No, of course, if his whereabouts were to be exposed, there would be endless trouble. Black Lotus, Gu Xuandao, and the others looked at Zhuowen's back view and were somewhat disappointed. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was not high, his strength was stronger than all of them. If Zhuowen took the lead, they would definitely shine in this year's big hunting competition. Everyone, this big hunt isn't simple. Many geniuses on the heavenly list secretly joined. Although I'm not sure what their intentions are, it's still very dangerous even though Brother Gu and I have the cultivation of the heaven and earth calamity. Why don't we move together? Brother Rong should be breaking through soon. When he successfully breaks through, we'll have more strength. Black Lotus said in a deep voice. Gu Xuandao and Rong Shuyao nodded. They already knew that the geniuses on the heavenly list were participating in this big hunt. However, they didn't know as much as Black Lotus. Chapter 42-48. The entire book. The Black Gold Mountain Range is indeed dangerous. The deeper we go, the more terrifying the beasts are. In a dense forest, Zhuo Wen's gaze became extremely sharp after he chopped off the head of a giant black panther with a single sword strike. Master, how far are we from the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain? Zhuan looked at the little lowly beside him and asked. At this moment, Shan Lingyun's hands were overlapping as she formed a series of complicated hand seals. A faint radiance surrounded the hand seals like a halo. This was the hand seals that Shan Lingyun used to activate the spiritual language spell. We are close. The approximate location should be northwest of us. With our current speed, we should be able to reach it in about 3 days, Shan Lingyun said solemnly. Zhuo nodded and continued to lead Shan Lingyun towards the northwest. This time, he deliberately slowed down and became even more cautious. He was very clear that the closer they were to the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain, the more guards there would be from the Nuwa clan. If he continued to fight with the giant beasts so openly, he would inevitably attract the attention of the experts from the Nuwa clan. As they approached carefully, the 3-day journey took Zhuan 5 days. Finally, they arrived at the periphery of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain. He realized that the closer they were to the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain, the fewer giant beasts they would encounter. It was obvious that the giant beasts around the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain had been cleared by the people from the Nuwa clan. The 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain was a mountain that emitted a 7-colored radiance. This mountain was extremely tall, like a sharp sword that pierced through the sky. The mountain of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain was very magical. It was said that it could easily affect a cultivator's 7 emotions and 6 desires. If one's willpower was not strong enough, he would easily be affected and become delirious. Therefore, the rocks of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain were the best material for illusory arrays. Many god formation masters liked to use the rocks of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain to set up illusory arrays. This could increase the power of the illusory arrays to another level. When Zhuan came to a bush and was about to observe the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain, an extremely powerful consciousness suddenly swept over and landed near Zhuan. Zhuan's pupils shrank. Without hesitation, he pulled Shan Lingyun into the great cosmos. The great world, on the other hand, turned into an insignificant speck of dust, landing on the ground of the shrubs and blending into the endless dust. The powerful divine sense seemed to have discovered something. It lingered in the bushes, repeatedly scanning the area. After repeating this several times, the divine sense finally left. In the great world, Shan Lingyun heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Phew! I was almost discovered. That divine sense is so powerful. It has already surpassed the great calamity of universe, right?" Zhuan nodded and said, "It should be a cosmic Dharma plane expert. I thought that after Wu Shang left, the Nuwa clan wouldn't have another cosmic Dharma plane expert guarding the mountain. It seems like I've underestimated the importance that the Nuwa clan places on the Mount of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. Isn't it said that no one above the Great Carefree Realm is allowed to enter the Black Gold Mountain Range? Why would the Nuwa clan send such an expert in?" Shan Lingyun asked curiously. "That's just a rule on the surface. The Nuwa clan must have reached some sort of agreement with many forces in the Nuwa domain. That's why they can send such an expert into the Black Gold Mountain Range. After all, rules are dead, but humans are alive," Zhuan guessed. Shan Lingyun nodded and continued, "Disciple, that divine sense has passed. Let's go out." However, Yuan pulled her back, shook his head and said, "Let's wait a little longer." Although Shan Lingyun was puzzled, she still waited obediently. After a while, Shan Lingyun's pretty face turned pale as she realized that the powerful divine sense had descended once again. Furthermore, it was in a way that caught them off guard. If they had gone out just now, they definitely wouldn't have been able to enter the great world in time to avoid the detection of this divine sense. This guy is so cunning. Shan Lingyun waved her fist and said coquettishly. For the next few times, the divine sense would vaguely scan the bushes that Tuan was in, as if it had its eyes on this area. Zhuan knew that they had given themselves away just now and attracted the suspicion of this guy. It seems like we can only hide in the great world and let it bring us into the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Zhuan was a little helpless. The great world was very magical. It could block out divine sense, and even cosmic dharma experts couldn't detect it. The only drawback was that the great world that he controlled moved very slowly. With the speed of the great world, it would probably take about 10 days to completely enter the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Even so, Zhuan had only one solution now. When Zhuan controlled the great world that had turned into dust and moved forward slowly, they finally realized how strict the security around the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires was. They saw groups of cultivators with powerful auras patrolling the periphery of the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. They were all expressionless. Master, the great world that you control is so slow. Let me help you increase the speed. Suddenly, a young voice sounded behind Zhuan. Then Zhuan was shocked to discover that the little guy, Sherpadian, had actually come to his side unknowingly. Moreover, this little guy's hands were forming seals, and a blazing golden light surged between his eyebrows. Then, Zhuan was pleasantly surprised to discover that the great world that had turned into dust suddenly became much faster. Penian, how do you control the great world? Zhuan asked curiously. Sherpadian scratched his head and said embarrassedly, I want it to be faster, and the great world will be faster. So simple? Zhuan was speechless. Sherpadian said innocently. It's not right for a child to lie. The great world was created by my disciple. Even he can't control it as he wishes. How can you do it? Shan Lingyun put her hands on her hips and lectured Sherpadian without holding back. Sherpadian tilted his head and looked at Shan Lingyun. Then he walked in front of Shan Lingyun. He raised his right hand and placed it on his forehead, then compared it to Shan Lingyun's forehead. He nodded with satisfaction and said, You're shorter than me. Call me brother. Shan Lingyun was so angry that her face turned red. She pointed at Sherpadian and said, You. Zhuan was deep in thought. Sherpadian was born from the great world. It seemed that he could control some of the functions of the great world as he wished. This should be related to his birth. He pulled away the little girl and little boy who were throwing a tantrum and instructed Sherpadian, Padin, you will control the speed according to my instructions. Do you understand? Sherpadian immediately regained his respectful and worshipful expression when facing Zhuan. He stuck out his tongue at Shan Lingyun and quickly said, Yes, master. Zhuan nodded and began to instruct Sherpadian to control the speed of the great world. Soon, they avoided the patrolling teams of cultivators one after another and were already approaching the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain. Suddenly, Tuan exclaimed. He realized that in the great world the incomplete map, which had been quietly placed in the bamboo house at the center of the lake, was emitting a blazing light and a buzzing sound. Zhuan waved his sleeve and grabbed the incomplete map in his hand. He felt the blazing heat and energy waves from the incomplete map. He was excited. Logically speaking, the only thing that could cause such a big movement from the incomplete map was another incomplete map that came from the same source. In other words, the other incomplete map was also in the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain. Chapter 42-49. I've searched high and low for it, only to find it without any effort. Zhu said. His original intention was to enter the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain to find clues about Moyan Wushang before looking for the map fragment. But who would have thought that he would stumble upon another incomplete map by chance? It was truly an unintentional case of a willow growing into a shade. At Zhuan's command, Sherpadian controlled the big world to move quickly and soon arrived at the foot of the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain. Zhu said. Suddenly, Wen stopped Sherpadian's intention to continue moving forward and made him stop abruptly. Although Sherpatian was puzzled, he still followed Zhuowen's instructions and attached the big world to an inconspicuous crack in the rocks at the foot of the mountain. Not long after the world turned into dust, a powerful divine sense descended and began to observe the area at the foot of the mountain. The owner of this divine sense is not simple. He should have found a clue, Zhuowen said with a dignified look. Shanling Yun said worriedly, "Disciple, will he find us? Won't we be in danger?" Zhuowen shook his head and said, "The big world is far more wonderful than you can imagine. As long as we don't move, no matter how strong that guy's divine sense is, he can't find us. It's just that we have to be more careful." That divine sense patrolled the vicinity of the rock cracks several times before slowly leaving. Next, Zhuowen moved forward more cautiously. The big world blended into countless dust and slowly moved along the cliff toward the mountain peak. Yuan Gang concluded that the entrance of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain should be halfway up the mountain. Only if he could reach halfway up the mountain, relying on the 7 Emotions tablet that Moyan Wushang left him, he could smoothly enter the interior of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain. Here at this moment, halfway up the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain, there was a vast open space. At the end of the open space, there was a huge black cave. Mountain in front of the cave, there was a stone tablet with the words, 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Cave written on it. Here on the stone tablet, a figure sat cross-legged. Looking carefully, it was an old man with white eyebrows, wearing a dark purple robe. White the old man with eyebrows frowned and muttered to himself, "Was it really my imagination? A few days ago, I sensed an unusual aura near the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires, and this aura is constantly approaching the mountain." The white-browed old man's senses were extremely sharp. His cultivation might not be the strongest in the Nuwa clan, but his innate senses were unmatched. When Zhuowen and Shanling Yun approached the nearby bushes, he had already sensed an unusual aura. That was why he had suddenly scanned the bushes with his divine sense. Only, however, when his divine sense landed on the shrubs, he did not discover anything. Although he tried several times, he still did not find anything. Earlier, he had also sensed an unusual fluctuation near a crack in the rocks at the foot of the mountain. After scanning the area again, he still didn't discover anything. This made the white-browed old man begin to doubt himself. Could it be that there was a problem with his perception? Why was there always a problem? When the white-browed old man was doubting himself, he didn't realize that an insignificant speck of dust had already arrived at the mountainside with a gust of wind. It was also slowly rolling towards the entrance of the cave of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. Phew! We've finally arrived at the mountainside. The cave of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. It seems like this is the entrance to the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires, Shanling Yun said excitedly as she saw the dark entrance at the end of the mountain through the macro world. Zhuanzhe looked at the white-browed old man who was sitting cross-legged on the stone tablet in front of the entrance of the cave silently. He sensed a familiar aura from him. It seemed like he was the owner of the divine sense that had scanned the area previously. White the old man's aura was similar to God blesses. They should be around the beginner stage of the universe Dharma form. However, this person's perception made Zhuowen wary. So this is the entrance. Then let's charge in directly. Sherpatian followed Shanling Yun's line of sight and also saw the cave of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. His eyes lit up. Because of his childish nature, without Zhuowen's instructions, he sped up his great world on his own accord and transformed into a stream of light that shot towards the cave's entrance. Oh no! Wenze was still in deep thought. He didn't expect Sherpatian to accelerate his macro world without his instructions. Swoosh! The dust that the macro world turned into was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived at the entrance of the cave of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. What are you afraid of? Our macro world is perfect. That old man won't even notice it. Sherpatian said innocently as he giggled. Only Sherpotian's smile didn't last for long. His expression changed drastically. Then, the macro world shook violently like never before. It was as though the world was spinning. What's going on? Shanling Yun asked in shock. We've been discovered. Zhe said. When Zhe looked solemn, his gaze passed through the macro world and landed on the white-browed old man who was still sitting cross-legged on the stone tablet. At that moment, the white-browed old man slowly retracted his right hand and stared at Zhuan with his sharp eyes. I'm sorry, master. I was too impulsive. I've let you down. Now I can only atone for my sins with my death. Sherpatian was flustered. He hugged Zhuan's thigh and cried loudly. Zhuan was a little speechless as he looked at Sherpatian, who was in tears and snot, and said, I'll teach you a lesson later. For now, you stay aside. Xiaohei, watch this boy. Don't let him do anything stupid. But Xiaohei, who had been following them not far away, came to Sherpatian's side with the Taiyu's sacred sword. She brought the other two weapon spirits and said something to Sherpatian. This little guy immediately smiled through his tears. Zhuan shook his head. Sherpatian was still a child. He liked to play. He couldn't be too harsh on him. At this moment, the white-browed old man, who was sitting on the stone tablet, stared at an insignificant speck of dust on the ground. He clicked his tongue in wonder and said, This is unbelievable. No wonder I always felt that something had intruded into the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. So it's a speck of dust, and it's not an ordinary speck of dust. With that, the white-browed old man waved his sleeve and the strange speck of dust that he had discovered appeared in his palm. The more he observed it, the more amazed he became. This was because this speck of dust was too ordinary. It was no different from any other speck of dust. If it wasn't for the strange behavior of this speck of dust, he really wouldn't have been able to recognize it. This old man wants to see what the hell this thing is. Bai Yunfei shouted. A trace of coldness flashed through the old man's eyes. He spread out his right hand and the surging power of the Dharma idol turned into a cluster of golden flames that began to burn the speck of dust in his hand. The golden flames were formed from his Dharma idol power. It was a true Dharma idol fire. Even an expert of the great tribulation of heaven and earth could burn it to ashes. If it was an ordinary speck of dust, it would be burned into nothingness upon contact. When the white-browed old man discovered that his Dharma idol fire was unable to burn the speck of dust into nothingness, a ray of light burst out from his eyes. Chapter 4250. Interesting. Even my transcendence divine fire can't refine it. What is this thing? The old man with white eyebrows pondered. He was getting more and more interested in this speck of dust. Just as he was about to make his next move, his expression changed. A strong sense of danger surged in his heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! The tiny speck of dust emitted a blazing light that was sharp and hard to look at. Following this light was a terrifying sword aura. Whoosh! In an instant, the ordinary speck of dust was enveloped by the terrifying sword aura. The old man with white eyebrows had no choice but to temporarily let go and quickly retreat. Whoosh! The moment the old man with white eyebrows retreated, a sword light flashed out of the speck of dust. It expanded rapidly, turning into a divine sword that flickered with purple, gold, and black light. It pierced toward the old man with white eyebrows. The old man with white eyebrows snorted coldly. His right hand formed a hook. Waves of transcendence divine fire condensed and fiercely clasped the sword aura of the Taiyu's sacred sword. He involuntarily took a few steps back before he could barely stabilize his body. Who is it? How dare you play tricks on me? Hurry up and come out. The old man with white eyebrows clasped the sword aura of the Taiyu's sacred sword with one hand. A pair of sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. He knew that this divine sword was definitely not the only thing hidden in the speck of dust. There should be someone controlling it behind the scenes. At the same time, he quickly sent out his divine thought and began to gather all the cultivator army on the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain. Soon, hundreds and thousands of elite cultivators would arrive at the mountainside. Coupled with him, a transcendence divine fire cultivator, there was no way this invader could escape. A sliver of heaven and earth. Mo's voice suddenly sounded. Then, the old man with white eyebrows narrowed his eyes. He discovered that the divine sword he was clasping was violently trembling, erupting with earth-shattering sword intent. his right hand could not suppress the divine sword. It broke free. A terrifying sword aura seemed to connect heaven and earth as it ruthlessly slashed toward his head. The old man with white eyebrows narrowed his eyes. With a roar, he summoned a huge Transcendence Divine Fire. This Transcendence Divine Fire was 790 feet long. It had a snake head and a human body. The Transcendence Divine Fire had a total of 3 snake heads. Clang. Pong. As soon as the large Dharma form appeared, it flicked its finger. Rolling Dharma power burst out and turned into a terrifying sea of fire. It swept across the sky and burned the terrifying sword chi to ashes. Zhuan leaped out from the great world and looked at the huge Dharma idol in front of him with a look of fear in his eyes. Where did this thief come from? How dare he trespass into the forbidden area, the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain? The old man with eyebrows stared coldly at Zhuan. He formed a seal with his right hand and turned into a stream of light that merged into the Dharma idol. The cosmic Dharma form was derived from the Qian Kuan world in the first place. Inside its body was a huge world with all kinds of rules. They grew and multiplied endlessly, crisscrossing each other. At this moment, the white-browed elder was sitting in the central cave residence of the cosmic aspect world. He was using his mind to communicate with the cosmic aspect world to control it. Zhuan didn't say anything. He took a step forward and made a grabbing motion with his right hand. The Taiyu Saint sword landed in his palm. While Zhuan didn't say a word and slashed out with the sword, shaking the 9th heaven again. The surging and violent sword chi was like a rolling dragon wall, constantly rolling and growing in size. The sword chi that was only a few feet long instantly turned into a terrifying sword chi storm that was over 10,000 feet long. While the sword chi storm was still growing. The more it rolled, the larger the storm was and the more powerful it was. This was the essence of the sword shaking the 9th heaven. A sword raised the wind and clouds, rolling the wall and shaking the 9th heaven. In an instant, the earth-shattering sword chi storm bombarded the cosmic aspect world. The white-browed old man sneered. He suddenly closed his hands together and endless transcendence divine fire gathered between his hands, turning into a huge fiery hammer without a handle. Boom. Nothing. When the fire hammer collided with the storm of sword chi, the entire world seemed to explode. There was actually an unprecedentedly terrifying explosion that reverberated throughout the world. The huge Dharma idol held the fire hammer and hammered down crazily. Every hammer strike seemed to hit the heart of heaven and earth, causing heaven and earth to tremble violently as if the end of the world had arrived. Hammer. After more than 10 strikes, the sword chi storm was completely shattered. The fire hammer only dimmed a little and wasn't consumed much. While at this moment, a figure rushed onto the fire hammer. One man with one sword, fearless. Life in the morning, death in the evening. Wen Ying looked at the blazing fire hammer in front of him and slashed out slowly. It seemed slow, but it was actually as fast as teleportation. The sword edge slashed out slowly, but the space collapsed and shattered. The laws were in chaos. This sword was stunning and peerless. It was rare in the world. Ding. The sword edge that was as small as an ant landed on the fire hammer that was as huge as a mountain. There was a crisp sound of metal clashing. Then the unstoppable fire hammer collapsed. Countless Dharma flames were extinguished in the blink of an eye. Pang! The great Dharma idol was forced to take a few steps back by the sword. While Zhuan, on the other hand, let out a muffled groan and quickly fell from the sky. Punin, catch me and rush into the cave. Zhuan shouted. An insignificant speck of dust flew over and stuck to Zhuan's back. Zhuan's rapidly descending figure had strangely stopped, and he was being led by a certain force toward the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires. The white-browed elder sat inside his Dharma idol. After his Dharma idol was forced back, Yuan had already reached the cave before he could react. Ignorant kid, the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires has a terrifying restriction set up by the Holy Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. You can't enter at all. Today you must die. The white-browed elder sneered. In fact, he was completely shocked. The moment Zhuan appeared, he sensed that the latter was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation stage. However, such a junior, who was 2 levels lower than him, had forced his Dharma idol to retreat. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. He had to kill this kid to appease his anger. However, just as the white-browed old man finished speaking, he was dumbstruck to discover that Zhuowen had taken out a 7-colored stone tablet. With a shake of the stone tablet at the entrance of the cave, the brat had turned into a ray of white light and disappeared from the cave entrance. He has the relic of the Holy Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires? How is that possible? Isn't the relic in the hands of Moyan Wushang? Why does he have it too? The white-browed elder went completely crazy. He was careless and led an outsider into the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. If this matter spread to the Niwa clan, he would be punished by the clan leader. He would be utterly humiliated. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4251. After using the 7 emotions steel to enter the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires, Thun slowed down. There was a powerful restriction at the entrance of the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires. The white-browed elder was trapped outside. Hence, after entering the cave, he wasn't in a hurry. Behind the cave, a deep passageway appeared in front of him. It was pitch black and seemed to be endless. Duan's eyes shone with excitement. He knew that he would be able to find the clues left behind by Moyan Wushang very soon. Shanling Yun glanced at the excited Zhuo Wen in astonishment. This was the first time she had seen the latter so agitated. The female cultivator that he was looking for should be very important to him. Chua. With that, Yun brought Shanling Yun along and ran towards the depths of the passageway. After about an hour, the two of them reached the end of the passageway. At the end of the passageway, there was another world. It was a vast hall. Here the hall shone with 7-colored radiance. It was dazzling and colorful. At this moment, the hall was bustling with people. Many powerful cultivators were happily gathered together, toasting each other. Why are there so many people? Could it be that other cultivators have entered the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires in advance? Shan Lingyun looked at the bustling crowd in the hall and a strange expression flashed past her eyes. They are not human. Jun shook his head. Shan Lingyun was shocked. She then realized that the cultivators in the hall had turned a blind eye to their intrusion. They simply treated them as air. Illusion. Shan Lingyun whispered. Chua. Wen nodded. His gaze went past the fake people in the illusion and landed on the deepest part of the hall. Over there was a sculpture that was dozens of feet tall. The original form of the sculpture was a graceful and charming lady. She wore a light veil on her face and her delicate face was faintly discernible. She was barefoot and stepped on auspicious clouds. She looked like a fairy. Under the beautiful lady's sculpture, there was a lotus seat. There were 7 petals around the lotus seat. Every petal had a different color and formed a 7-colored lotus seat. When Zhuowen's gaze landed on the lotus seat, the 7 emotions tablet in the large world suddenly trembled violently and emitted a strange sound. While after that, Yun was surprised to find that the 7 emotions tablet had broken through the barrier of the great world. It flickered and flew straight toward the lotus seat. When the 7 emotions steel landed on the lotus seat, a line of scarlet words appeared on the surface of the steel. Fated one, congratulations on obtaining my 7 emotions steel. You are now qualified to obtain the other half of my inheritance. Now you are sitting on the lotus seat. Next, you will experience the trials that I have set for you. If you successfully pass, you will be able to obtain the other half of my legacy. After when Xinzhong recited the scarlet flame words on the 7 emotions tablet, he remained silent for a moment before he walked towards the lotus seat in the depths of the hall. Thud. The crisp sound of footsteps leisurely resounded in the hall. Originally, the noisy phantoms in the great hall stopped talking. Then, the many phantoms in the great hall stopped what they were doing. Then, they looked at Zhuowen with strange smiles on their faces. What's going on? Why does this illusion feel so real? It's as if these people are real. It's as if they have discovered us. Ling Yun followed behind Zhuowen. When she felt the strange gazes around her, she couldn't help but shiver. But she didn't care because it was just an illusion in the Great Hall. She didn't need to worry at all. Swoosh! Swoosh! Suddenly, in the Great Hall, a male cultivator pulled out a divine sword and rushed toward Jun. He slashed it down on his head. The cold sword light was like a bright moon that bloomed in the sky above the Great Hall. Then, it fell heavily. Chua! A cold light flashed in Wen Xinzhong's eyes. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed the divine sword. The divine sword in his hand couldn't withstand the surging divine power and broke into pieces. Die! Zhuo Wen softly spat out the word, die. The 5 fingers of his right hand clenched into a fist and fiercely smashed into the male cultivator's chest and abdomen. Divine power poured into the male cultivator's body like a torrent and suddenly exploded. The male cultivator was sent flying in midair. Before he landed on the ground, he exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The pungent smell of blood permeated the entire Great Hall. It was sad but beautiful. Disciple, what's going on? Didn't you say that this is an illusion? Why did the illusion attack us? Moreover, the smell of blood is so real? Shan Lingyun was shocked. What had happened just now was too sudden and real. She was still a little confused until now. These are indeed illusions. However, the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Master's illusions have reached a level where they can pass off as real. Therefore, although these are illusions, they are also real. Zhuan took a deep breath and a solemn look flashed across his eyes. He had just realized that the illusion just now had reached a level where it could pass off as real. If he had been hit by it, he would have been seriously injured or even died. Bang! After the male cultivator exploded into a cloud of blood mist, the atmosphere in the Great Hall froze. Many cultivators around the Great Hall looked at Zhuan coldly. All of them were filled with killing intent. Enter the Great World first. Zhuo shouted. After Wen finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and kept Shan Lingyun in the Great World. Suddenly, at the same time, the cultivators who had been chatting and laughing in the main hall all turned into Azuras and charged toward Zhuo Wen with ferocious expressions. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The Great Hall was filled with the sound of cultivators using their movement techniques and the sound of swords being unsheathed. I thought that the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Master's test would start from sitting on the lotus seat. Now, it seems that I was too naive. Wen shook his head. His eyes were filled with a radiance that was hard to look at. He stomped his feet and natal stars broke out from the ground. They spun rapidly around him in a specific trajectory and formed a powerful star territory. At the same time, a golden light shone from the center of Zhuo Wen's eyebrows. Streaks of soul sword essence were forcefully released by him and flew in all directions. Swoosh! Many figures charged toward Zhuan. Most of the cultivators were blocked by the star territory and killed outside. A small number of them were killed by the soul sword essence after breaking through the star territory. A small number of illusions broke through the obstruction of the star territory and soul sword essence. When they finally arrived in front of Zhuan, they were killed by Zhuan with a slap. There were many illusions in the Great Hall, but their strength was a little weak. The strongest one was only at the middle stage of Qian Kun Great Tribulation. They were no match for Zhuan at all. Clang! Zhuo Wen slowly walked to the front of the lotus seat. Zhuo Wen had killed almost all of the illusions that pounced at him. Chua! Wen looked at the lotus seat in front of him, which was shining with 7-colored light. He thought for a while and sat on the lotus seat. Only after Zhuan sat on the lotus seat, it immediately changed. The huge petals that were scattered around the edge of the lotus seat began to close slowly and enveloped Zhuan. While in the Great Hall, a majestic voice slowly resounded. Once the 7 emotions lotus seat closes, it will be a matter of life and death. Only those who pass the test will have the lotus seat open. Those who pass the test will live. Those who fail will have the lotus seat closed forever. Those who pass the test will die. Chapter 42-52. While Zhuan was undergoing the test of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires in the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires, The outside of the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires was in an uproar. The white-browed elder had gathered almost all of the cultivator army in the Black Gold Mountain range, as well as the experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe who were stationed here. The white-browed elder was the only cosmic dharma expert guarding the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Other than him, there were 5 other experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe. This 5 experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe. 2 of them were at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe and 3 were at the late stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe. This was an extremely terrifying lineup. Even if it was the current Zhuowen, he would probably have no choice but to temporarily avoid them unless he could successfully advance to the universe tribulation. 7 outside the cave of 6 emotions and 6 desires, the white-browed elder and the 5 experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe were silently guarding. Behind them was a black mass of cultivators floating in the air. At a glance, there were more than 10,000 cultivators in the army, and all of them were elites. At this moment, the white-browed elder and the 5 experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe looked very solemn. Among them was a handsome man with a slender figure and a folding fan in his hand. He frowned and asked, "Lord Yang, why did you summon us in such a hurry?" The others also looked at each other. The handsome man had spoken their minds. Unless it was an enemy attack, the white-browed elder had no need to gather all of them. This was because they had not seen any enemy when they arrived. The white-browed elder's eyes flashed. He sighed and said, "Someone has entered the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires." What? Everyone was shocked. The handsome man asked curiously, "Lord Yang, could it be that Moyan Wushang dares to return to the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain? Does he really not put our Nuwa clan in his eyes?" In their opinion, the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires was set up with an extremely powerful formation restriction. Ordinary people could not enter the cave of 7 emotions and 6 desires unless it was Moyan Wushang who carried the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. It's not Moyan Wushang. It's someone else. This person also has the relic of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. The old man with eyebrows sighed softly and explained everything that had happened just now in full detail. What? He's just a little brat at the peak of the ancient star transformation. How could he force your cosmic idol back? When the white-browed elder mentioned Zhuo Wen's battle with him, the 5 experts of the cosmic tribulation were all shocked. They found it hard to believe that this was true. Even the number 1 genius on the Outer Realms celestial list couldn't fight against an elite of the universe's Dharma plane as an ancient star. The difference between the two was too great. However, they also understood that there was no need for the white-browed elder to lie. After all, this was not a dignified matter. Yu Hao, you're a divine array master at the first heavenly layer of eternal heaven. From now on, you will set up detection, surveillance, and flight restriction formations around the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. That kid will definitely come out again. Once he does, we'll be the first to know and capture him. This time, we can't make the same mistake as Mo Yen Wushang. The white-browed old man said in a deep voice. Yu Hao was the weakest of the 5 cosmic tribulation experts. He was a pot-bellied middle-aged man. Here at this moment, Yu Hao's eyes were solemn as he said, "Lord Yang, should we report this matter to our superiors and ask them to send more people?" The white-browed elder waved his hand and said, "There's no need for that. After all, this kid's cultivation is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation. We're enough." Yu Hao thought about it and agreed. This was different from Mo Yen Wushang's cultivation. Mo Yen Wushang's cultivation was so terrifying that even the great clan master couldn't take her down. This kid was only at the ancient star transformation. They were indeed enough to deal with him. Under the command of the white-browed elder, everyone surrounded the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain in an orderly manner, sealing off almost every corner of the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain. As long as there was a slight movement in the wind, it would not be able to escape their eyes and ears. Here, while the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires was being sealed off, Zhuan was immersed in the trial of the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Clang. When Zhuan opened his eyes, what appeared in front of him was a tall mountain. Here the mountain had 7 colors, and each color occupied an area. The whole mountain was divided into 7 areas: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The area at the foot of the mountain was red, and the area at the top of the mountain was purple. You'll pass if you reach the top of the mountain. A low and magnetic voice slowly sounded in Zhuan's mind. Zhuan looked at the 7-colored mountain range in front of him. He knew that this was a trial set up by the Holy Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. Only by passing the trial could he obtain the other half of his inheritance. Only by obtaining the other half of the inheritance would he be able to obtain the clues left behind by Mo Yen Wushang. Although he wasn't interested in the inheritance of the Holy Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires, but Mo Yen Wushang needed it very much. After he obtained it, he would personally give the other half of the inheritance to Mo Yen Wushang. When Zhuan stepped into the red area at the foot of the mountain, the surrounding temperatures suddenly increased. Figures with strange, smiling masks appeared in front of him. These figures with smiling masks didn't say a word. They just stood there and smiled. Then, they quietly approached Zhuan. Suddenly, they took out sharp daggers and stabbed toward Zhuan's heart. These figures all had daggers hidden in their smiles. They were not simple. Zhuan shook his head. This kind of trial did not pose any difficulty to him. He abruptly swept out with his foot, and the numerous figures that had gathered around him were all swept away by his foot. Zhuan was like a beast in human form. He rushed forward at an extremely fast speed. He dealt with every move as if there was no one around. Very fast. Soon, Zhuan passed through the first area and arrived at the second area. The second area was the orange area. The figures that appeared here were all wearing angry masks. As soon as they appeared, they launched fierce and violent attacks at Zhuan without any regard for their lives. Zhuan was not in a hurry. He strolled among the many figures. Not long after, he successfully passed through the second area and entered the third area. As he passed through the levels, Zhuan also understood that the trial of the 7-colored mountain was divided according to the 7 emotions of a person. The first level was the emotion of happiness. The second level was the emotion of anger. Zhuan went all the way unimpeded. When he arrived at the 6th level, he found that there was no one in the 6th area. It was empty. The vast area emitted a dim blue color, while the temperature in this area was extremely low. It was cold. After Zhuan entered this area, he felt an inexplicable chill and fear in his heart. If I'm not wrong, this area should be based on the emotion of fear, Zhuan muttered. When muttered to himself as he walked slowly. Suddenly, a crisp cracking sound came from under his feet. Lowering his head, he found a ferocious ghost face appearing under his feet. A pair of scarlet eyes stared straight at Zhuan. Zhuan frowned. He ignored the ghost face and continued to move forward. Then, just as he raised his head, the ghost face appeared in front of him again. Only rotten stench mixed with the smell of rusty iron assaulted his face. It was nauseating. Chapter 42-53. Zhuan was expressionless. The golden light between his eyebrows burned even brighter. Streaks of soul sword intent shot out and blasted towards the ghost face in front of him. Instantly, the ghost face shattered into countless pieces like glass. Strange, sinister laughter resounded in the air. Ghost faces appeared around Serene Blue and stared at Zhuan without blinking. If it was an ordinary person, being stared at by so many sinister and terrifying ghost faces would definitely cause fear. However, Zhuan's heart was calm. He knew very well that the 7 emotions and 6 desires Saint Lord was best at mobilizing people's emotions and desires. Once the emotions and desires were mobilized, he would fall into a passive state. In the 6th stage, if he was frightened by these ghost faces, he would be in real danger. Streaks of soul sword intent surrounded Zhuan's body. The latter walked leisurely among the many ghost faces around him. He turned a blind eye to the ferocious eyes of the ghost faces. He was fearless. Following. As Zhuan continued to move forward, the number of ghost faces around him increased. However, The ghost faces became more and more fearful. They were actually afraid of Zhuan. They were the embodiment of fear. People who were fearless were their biggest nemesis. Zhuan continued to move forward. He successfully walked out of the 6th stage and arrived at the 7th stage. The 7th stage was about the emotions of desire. There were all kinds of human figures with desires. Lust, power, vanity, and other desires surrounded Zhuan. Even though Zhuan tried his best to restrain himself, he was starting to get a little dazzling. Whoosh. However, Zhuan's eyes became extremely clear. His eyes revealed a sharp light as he muttered to himself, "Desire is the foundation of a person. I think, therefore I desire. The pursuit of power, the pursuit of the heavenly Tao, the pursuit of the supreme art, these are all desires. Desire is the source of motivation, the foundation of motivation. What I should do is not to blindly resist, but to accept these emotions." Zhuan's eyes revealed a look of enlightenment. He realized that he was wrong to have passed the first 6 stages. He was ridiculously wrong. The 7 emotions and 6 desires were not to resist, but to accept. No one was perfect, and there was no perfect saint in the world. Even the sages of ancient times had made mistakes and had the desire to pursue something. Both if that was the case, why did he have to resist the 7 emotions and 6 desires one by one? The 7 emotions and 6 desires are the original sin of a human being, but they are also the help of a human being. The Saint Lord of the 7 emotions and 6 desires did not reject the emotions of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Instead, he chose to accept, absorb, and use them. When sat cross-legged on the ground and stared at the figures of desire around him, he no longer resisted and chose to accept them. How as the saying goes, the sea can accommodate hundreds of rivers. Tuntime. Complicated sounds of decadence swept over like a tidal wave and drowned Zhuan's entire body. Moreover, sounds of various desires that caused one's face to turn red started to resound by his ears, heart, and eyes. Zhuan's expression was calm. He was trying to accept these desires and begin to understand the reasons for these desires. As time passed, Zhuan's eyes were sometimes clear, sometimes confused, sometimes happy, and sometimes sad. After a long time, the illusions of desire around him collapsed and Zhuan's eyes regained their clarity. He was like a grandmaster who had experienced thousands of tribulations in the mortal world and seen through the world. He had an indescribable special temperament. So this is the original intention of the Saint Lord of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Only by accepting can one obtain the truth. When muttered to himself. During the period of time he was sitting in the illusions of desire in the 7th stage, his comprehension had been greatly improved. While this benefit was directly used on his cultivation. It was only the 7th stage, but he realized that his comprehension of the great calamity of heaven and earth had reached a new level. Zhuan looked at the exit at the end of the mountain peak. If he left now, it would mean that he had successfully passed the trial set by the Saint Lord of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. However, Zhuan did not do so. Instead, he walked towards the 6th stage. In the first 6 stages, he resisted 6 different emotions. It was only at the 7th stage that he was enlightened and understood the true meaning behind it. Now, what he had to do was to make up for the mistake he had made at the beginning. He chose to open his heart and accept the remaining 6 emotions. Just like how he had climbed up the mountain from the foot of the mountain to the peak, he walked down the mountain from the peak. Clang. When he finally reached the foot of the mountain, his body suddenly burst out with a powerful and mysterious aura. This mysterious aura shot into the sky and began to outline in the void. It faintly formed the outline of a huge world. The great calamity of heaven and earth? When slowly raised his head and looked into the depths of the void. The outline of the world that was outlined by the mysterious aura that surged out of his body was shocking. Clang. After he accepted the true meaning of the 7 emotions, his comprehension reached the peak and he comprehended the way to break through the great calamity of heaven and earth. Now he already had the realm of the great calamity of heaven and earth. The only thing he lacked was enough energy to completely form the outline of his great calamity of heaven and earth. I did not expect the trip to the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain to bring forward my breakthrough by so much. A wisp of a smile appeared on the corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth. He was very clearly aware that after he left the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain and entered the abyssal bone desolate land once more, he would be able to smoothly break through after absorbing all the evil energy within the abyssal bone desolate land. Congratulations! You have comprehended the true meaning of the 7 emotions. Very good, very good. Finally, there is someone who can inherit my treasure. Suddenly, the Lord of 7 Emotions 6 Desires' ecstatic voice rang in Zhuo Wen's mind, while after which, Zhuo Wen's consciousness suddenly turned black. When he woke up again, he was once again in the hall from before. He was still seated on the 7-colored lotus seat. At this moment, the colorful petals on the colorful lotus seat had withered. The moment Zhuo Wen stood up and jumped off the colorful lotus seat, the 7 Emotions tablet that was floating above the lotus seat suddenly landed in the middle of the lotus seat. The tablet exploded with colorful light. Clang. When the colorful light dissipated, Zhuo Wen realized that the 7 Emotions tablet and the lotus seat had disappeared. What appeared in front of him was a colorful key. He picked up the colorful key and at the same time, he noticed that there was a secret door made of lazurite below the lotus seat. There was a keyhole on the secret door and the shape of the keyhole matched the colorful key. Zhuo Wen's eyes were clear. He picked up the colorful key, inserted it into the keyhole, and twisted it gently. There was a crisp sound and the lazurite secret door slowly opened, revealing a passageway that was not too big below. In the passageway, there was a flight of stairs that was also made of lazurite. When Zhuo Wen walked down the lazurite stairs and entered the passageway, the 2 indestructible lazurite secret doors suddenly closed. At the moment the lazurite secret doors closed, the entire 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain underwent a huge change. Only the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires began to tremble like never before. Afterwards, the restrictions and formations that the Saint Master of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires had set up around the mountain became extremely unstable. Violent, irregular ripples began to appear. Originally the white-browed elder, the 5 great tribulation experts, and the cultivators of the Niwa clan who were guarding outside the cave of 7 Emotions 6 Desires all noticed the unstable ripples around the mountain. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4254. Omega Omega Omega. Omega Omega. Kite Omega choked on my words. What happened? Why are the restrictions around the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain so unstable? The white-browed elder frowned and asked in confusion. Not good. This fluctuation was a sign that the restriction had self-destructed. Lord Yang, take everyone and retreat. The slightly plump Yu Hao, who was standing not far from the white-browed elder, had a drastic change in expression. He shouted at the white-browed elder and the others. The white-browed old man and the others also reacted. Without hesitation, they quickly retreated with the 5 experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe. Boom! The instant the white-browed old man retreated, the dense restrictions around the entire 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain finally activated their continuous self-detonation mode. Explosive sounds continuously rang out, sounding extremely terrifying. The forbidding aura of the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires was simply too terrifying. Once it exploded, its power and range far exceeded everyone's expectations. The entire Golden Crow Mountain range was in an uproar. Many of the giant beasts in the vicinity felt the terrifying aura of the explosion and were so frightened that they all fled towards the outskirts of the Golden Crow Mountain range. While some of the unlucky giant beasts were too close to the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain and could not escape in time. They were enveloped by the explosion and exploded into pieces. The most miserable ones were the cultivator army of the Niwa clan that had gathered in front of the cave of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. They didn't even have time to react before they were completely engulfed by the explosion. Not even their bodies were left intact. At the same time, within the Golden Crow Mountain range, the teams participating in the Great Hunt all stopped and looked in the direction of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain. Over there, a terrifying explosion slowly rose up, erupting into a blazing white light that was even more dazzling than 1,000 blazing suns hanging in the sky, causing them to involuntarily close their eyes. The deafening sound of the explosion made them feel as if they had lost their hearing. Other than the loud roar, there was no other sound. The 7 huge cities that surrounded the Golden Crow Mountain range were also clearly affected. The 7 huge cities were also shaking violently. Countless experts in the cities were dumbstruck as they stared at the gigantic mushroom cloud that rose high into the sky and the extremely dazzling explosion in the Golden Crow Mountain range. What happened in the Black Gold Mountains? How could there be such a terrifying explosion? This explosion was too terrifying. Even if it was an expert at the peak of the universe tribulation, if they were to be caught in it, they would still die with hatred. Even the cosmic form might not be able to withstand it. The 7 giant cities were in an uproar. Everyone was anxious. Most of them were worried about the geniuses of their respective sects who were participating in the big hunt. The 7 city lords also started to panic. They started to contact each other to ask what had happened. However, no matter how they asked, no one knew the reason. Look at that direction. It seems to be the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain. Did something happen at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain? In the Di Luo City's City Lord Mansion, Di Luo City's City Lord Ling Luo was sitting on a seat in the depths of the hall. In the hall, there was a huge round table with 6 seats. This is the 6 seats were occupied by the city lords of the other 6 cities. However, these 6 city lords did not come with their true bodies. Instead, they were projections of their clones. Their figures looked somewhat illusory and were not corporeal. Ling Luo City Lord was right. The direction of the explosion was indeed near the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. I'm afraid that something really happened at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. With such a huge commotion, I'm afraid that something big has happened at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. Chen Zhao, the city lord of Clear Sky City, agreed with Ling Luo's words. Zhao Sky City was the most powerful city among the 7 giant cities. Chen Zhao was also the leader of the 7 city lords. When he spoke, the other city lords did not raise any objections. The 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain is in the depths of the Black Gold Mountain range. With such a huge change, I'm afraid that it will affect the big hunt this time. We should report this to the Nuwa clan. Fan Exen, the city lord of Burning Sky City, said with a serious expression. The one guarding the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain this time is the elder of the Nuwa clan, Yang Yuqing. I have some ties with him. I'll send him a message to ask about it. Chen Zhao spoke again. Thus the other 6 city lords all agreed with Chen Zhao's suggestion. After a while, Chen Zhao spoke again and said, No, I sent a message to Yang Yuqing's communication jade, but I didn't get a reply. Yang Yuqing is a cosmic dharma powerhouse after all. Could something have happened to him? Ling Luo frowned and said, I'm not sure about that. We can only wait now. With such a huge thing happening at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain, I'm sure that the great clan leader will receive the news very soon. I'm sure that the Nuwa clan will send powerhouses to deal with it very soon, Chen Zhao said in a low voice. 7 The 6 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain was completely blown into ruins. Even the hundreds of thousands of square kilometers around it were affected and turned into a charred land of ruins. Suddenly in the void not far from the ruins of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain, a crack slowly appeared in the void. 6 figures in a sorry state appeared in the void. These 6 figures were naturally Yang Yuqing and the 5 cosmic tribulation powerhouses. However, they were not in good condition. Yang Yuqing's right arm had exploded, and his entire body was covered in wounds. Blood flowed freely, and his aura was much weaker. While the other 5 cosmic tribulation powerhouses were in even worse condition. They were all on the verge of death. Among them, the slightly plump Yu Hao was on the verge of death. But why did this happen? The 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Saint Lord is truly ruthless. He actually hid this trick in the surrounding restrictions. I'm not willing to die like this. Yu Hao's eyes were about to split open. He roared at the sky and spat out a mouthful of blood. He fell straight to the ground and died with his eyes wide open. Yang Yuching hurried to Yu Hao's side and examined him. His eyes were extremely cold. Yu Hao's life force had been cut off long ago. It was already a miracle that he was able to hold on until now. The breath he spat out just now had completely used up the last of his life force. You and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Yang Yuching was so angry that his body trembled. Naturally, he thought that the sudden explosion of the restrictions on the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain was all caused by Zhuan. Lord Yang, such a terrifying explosion even destroyed the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain. I'm afraid that the guy who entered the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain is already dead. He's really ruthless. He knew that he couldn't escape, but he chose to die with us. The handsome man with the folding fan in his hand was also very wretched at the moment. His eyes were filled with hatred. Yang Yuching nodded. His thoughts were similar to the handsome man's. Even he had to retreat from such a terrifying explosion. How could Zhuoan, who was at the core of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain, have survived? Report this to the Nuwa clan immediately. The 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain exploded. Then, the treasures and inheritance of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Saint Lord will no longer belong to the Nuwa clan. We've planned for so many years, but in the end, we've gained nothing. We can't escape the punishment of the great clan's sovereign. Yuching was disheartened. He took out his communication jade talisman and discovered that he had received a new message. He discovered that it was from the city lord of Clear Sky City, Qin Zhao, but he ignored it. Instead, he sent a message to the person in charge of the Nuwa clan, reporting everything that had happened. Baidu search Xing 81 Chinese network. No advertising message. Chapter 4255. Within Nuwa City, there were many palaces, auspicious clouds, thousands of auspicious beasts, and thousands of rainbows. It was a paradise on earth. The Nuwa Shrine was the most central building of Nuwa City. In the central square of the shrine, there was a 3,000-meter tall statue of a woman with a human face and a snake body. The upper body of the statue was that of a beautiful and holy young woman. She held a bottle in her right hand, and her left hand formed a strange seal. She had a benevolent look on her face. This statue was the ancestor of the Nuwa clan, Nuwa. It was Nuwa who had founded the Nuwa clan and brought peace and prosperity to the Nuwa realm. At this moment, in the grand hall of Nuwa Shrine, there was a graceful female cultivator with a human face and a snake body. She looked solemn and dignified. Her aura was as vast as the ocean, and she gave people the feeling that she was unfathomable. She was the 3rd clan leader of the Nuwa clan, Nujun. Her status and strength in the Nuwa clan were second only to the 1st clan leader and the 2nd clan leader. Here at this moment, her long snake body was coiled on the ground, and she was resting with her eyes closed. Suddenly, she opened her beautiful eyes and took out her communication jade talisman. She found that it was a message from Yuching. Nujun frowned slightly. Yuching was the current guardian of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain. Normally, he wouldn't send her messages unless something major happened. Now the 1st clan leader was in seclusion to recover from his injuries, while the 2nd clan leader was out on a mission and wasn't in the city. Nue's the 3rd clan leader of the Nuwa clan, Jun was now the de facto leader of the Nuwa clan. She was basically in charge of everything in the Nuwa clan. After reading the message in the jade talisman, Jun's face turned extremely gloomy. Someone broke into the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires again. This time, the entire mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires self-destructed. The cultivator army stationed at the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires was completely wiped out. One of the 5 deputy generals, Yu Hao, has fallen. Jun murmured to herself. Her starry eyes were filled with both shock and anger. Jun. Yes. The handsome girl calmed down very quickly, because Yang Yuching's message wasn't finished. There was still one last paragraph. 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain has been turned into ruins. The intruders should have perished together. The young woman frowned slightly. She always felt that things were not so simple. Moreover, the great clan master had mentioned that the restrictions around the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain would explode. As for what conditions would trigger the explosion, he did not elaborate. Female June hesitated for a moment and decided to seek the opinion of the great clan master on this matter. She rose to her feet and entered the depths of the Nuwa shrine, where she opened a secret door. She began to walk through the secret door in a wondrous manner until she finally arrived at a secret room with a completely different world. This secret chamber was the most secretive place within the Nuwa shrine. Within the entire Nuwa clan, only the 3 clan heads knew about it. No one else knew about it at all. The secret room was extremely large. It was about 10 acres in size. Everything was available inside. Moreover, the primal chaos energy was extremely abundant. It was 1,000 times more abundant than the outside world. Me at the center of the room, a middle-aged man with a human face and a snake's body sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion that glowed with golden light. Precious divine medicines and divine pills piled up like a mountain around him, and all of them were used to treat his injuries. Naturally, the identity of this person was obvious. He was the great clan master Huangju, the most powerful person in the Nuwa clan. Huangju slowly opened his sharp eyes and stared at the handsome girl in front of him with an unpleasant expression. He asked, "What happened?" Ju was very clear that the handsome girl would never enter the secret room to disturb his treatment if nothing major had happened. Now that she suddenly asked to see him, it was obvious that something major had happened. Female the handsome girl had a respectful expression. She told Huangju the news that Yang Yuqing had sent her in full detail. Huangju listened silently. His expression was cold. It was impossible to tell what he was feeling at this moment. He was like a block of ice in a deep well, cold and unpredictable. Great clan master, Yang Yuqing has seriously neglected his duty this time. How should we punish him? And the explosion of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain? The handsome girl asked in a low voice. Huangju pondered for a moment, then laughed out loud. This made the handsome girl puzzled. I have been planning in the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain for so many years. I have been waiting for this day. Huangju's eyes shone brightly. The handsome girl was even more confused. What did Huangju mean? When the mountain of 7 emotions and 6 desires self-destructed, all the treasures and inheritances within the mountain would explode into nothingness. Why did Huangju say that it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? Female the handsome girl found it hard to understand. Huangju did not keep her in suspense. He smiled faintly and said to the handsome girl, "Handsome girl, do you know why the restrictions in the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain all self-destructed? This is a secret. I have asked many divine array masters to study it before coming to this conclusion." "What conclusion?" the handsome girl asked. The Saint Lord of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain is extremely cunning. The restrictions that he set up around the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain are not particularly brilliant, but they are extremely troublesome. Once someone tries to break it by force, the restrictions will self-destruct without saying anything. Therefore, I have not dared to break it by force for so many years. This is one of the reasons why the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain self-destructed. The other reason is that the inheritance and treasures of the Saint Lord of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain were all taken by the person he chose. This is the second reason why the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain self-destructed. Huangju said faintly. Female the handsome girl's pupils shrank. She said excitedly, "Great clan master, you mean, yes. Just as you guessed, the inheritance and treasures of the 7 emotions and 6 desires Saint Lord were completely taken by the second person. That's why the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain self-destructed. This is also why the Saint Lord of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain is so cunning. Because according to normal logic, if the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain self-destructed, then the person who obtained the inheritance and treasures in the mountain would definitely not be able to survive. If we did not know about this, we would also think the same and let the person who obtained the inheritance and treasures escape." Huangju said faintly. Huangju's eyes turned cold. She continued, I was wondering why the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain did not self-destruct after Moyan Wushang obtained the inheritance. Now it seems that Moyan Wushang only obtained half of the inheritance and did not obtain the treasures of the Saint Lord of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain. According to my thinking, even if he only obtained half of the inheritance, if he obtained all of the treasures of the Saint Lord of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain, then the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain would self-destruct. Now, the second intruder is taking advantage of the situation. The handsome girl's eyes shone brightly. As long as we can catch the second intruder, then we can obtain the treasures of the Saint Lord of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain. Huang Ju nodded. She was also somewhat excited. She said, "How strong is the second intruder? Just in case I should come out of seclusion." The handsome girl shook her head. This time, there is no need to trouble the great clan master to personally take action. As for the second intruder, Yang Yuqing has already informed me. It is said that he is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation stage. Chapter 4256. This kid is quite lucky to obtain the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires relic and enter the mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires successfully. He's even lucky enough to obtain the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires inheritance and treasures. It's a pity that he won't be able to enjoy them. Ju revealed a look of surprise and said, "Oh? You're only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. For an ant like you to have such good fortune, it's truly enviable. With you around, it's more than enough. In fact, I feel that it's a bit of a waste of talent." Ju smiled and said, "It's not a waste of talent. Although this kid's cultivation base isn't high enough, we can't let our guard down." You're right. I'm not worried with you around. It doesn't matter if this kid lives or dies, but we can't lose the treasures he obtained. Do you understand?" Huang Ju reminded her solemnly. Ju bowed and said, "Don't worry, Great Clan Supreme. I'll definitely solve this perfectly." Then, Ju bowed and left the secret chamber. After she left the secret chamber, she sat on the divine throne in the grand shrine and ordered the servants to ring the god bell of Nuwa City. The distant ringing of the bell continued to spread throughout the entire divine city, growing and multiplying endlessly. For a time, all the cultivators in Nuwa City raised their heads with puzzlement and surprise in their eyes. Lady the God Bell of Nuwa City only rang once in thousands of years. Every time it rang, something major must have happened. All the higher-ups in the city had to be summoned. All of a sudden, all the cultivators in seclusion in Nuwa City came out of seclusion and headed to Nuwa's grand shrine. Shen Yu and Jian Luo also came out of their cave abodes. They were confused, but they did not dare to disobey the summons. This was especially true for God Bless. He had yet to recover from his injuries after the battle with Duan Jipeng and Zhuowen. He was at a critical juncture in his closed-door cultivation to heal himself. Now that he was shocked by the God Clock, he had no choice but to stop healing himself and head to Nuwa's shrine. Therefore, along the way, God Bless could not stop nagging, complaining that the God Bell was ringing at an untimely time. Many figures gathered outside Nuwa's shrine. They were all kneeling in the plaza where Nuwa's statue was. Only 7 figures remained standing as they entered the shrine. These 7 figures were the true elites of the Nuwa clan. All of them were at the cosmic form level or above. Surprisingly, God Bless and Jian Luo were among them. Among the 7 figures, the slender man in green robes seemed to be the leader. Even Jian Luo and Xin Yu looked at the man in green robes with respect and fear. Xian the man's name was Qing Lulan, and he was an expert of the Nuwa clan who was second only to the 3 clan lords. His cultivation had reached the late cosmic Dharma stage, and it was said that he wasn't far from the peak cosmic Dharma stage. Qing Lulan had a very high status in Nuwa clan, and was one of the most valued elites of the 3 clan leaders. Qing Lulan bowed and asked, "Third clan head, may I know why you've suddenly summoned us?" The 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain had self-destructed, and the inheritance and treasures within were suspected to have been seized by someone. The only reason I've summoned all of you here is that I need to go to the Black Gold Mountains. Is anyone willing to go with me? The handsome woman asked calmly. Qing Lulan and the others were shocked. They didn't expect the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain to self-destruct, and the inheritance and treasures within had been seized by someone else. This was huge news. Great. The clan lord had planned for countless years in the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain for the inheritance and treasures of the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord. Now that it had been seized, the first clan lord naturally wouldn't let it go. I'm willing to go with you to the Black Gold Mountains, Qing Lulan quickly said. Lady the handsome woman shook her head and said, the first clan lord is in seclusion, the second clan lord is out on a mission, and I'm leaving. Nuwa City needed a powerful expert to guard it. Qing Lulan, you're the strongest expert of the Nuwa clan aside from the 3 clan lords. You must stay in Nuwa City. Qing Lulan frowned slightly. Seeing the determined look on the handsome woman's face, she could only nod and accept the order. Shen Yu, Jian Luo, both of you will come with me to the Black Gold Mountains. The rest of you will guard Nuwa City. When I'm not around, you must listen to Qing Lulan's orders. Do you understand? The handsome woman said calmly. Qing Lulan and the others bowed to show that they understood. Lady. After giving her orders, the handsome woman brought Shen Yu and Jian Luo to the teleportation portal in Nuwa City. They directly teleported to the teleportation portal in Clear Sky City, one of the 7 giant cities in the Black Gold Mountains. When the handsome woman was heading to the Black Gold Mountains, she sent a message to Yang Yuqing, who was deep in the Black Gold Mountains. She asked him to keep an eye on the ruins of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain. In the ruins deep in the Black Gold Mountains, Yang Yuqing was shocked after reading the handsome woman's message. The other 4 experts of the Qian Kun tribulation saw how shocked Yang Yuqing was. They came up to him and asked for the reason. When Yang Yuqing told them what the handsome woman meant, the 4 of them were so shocked that they were speechless. I see. According to the 3 clan lords, the intruder isn't dead at all. He's still hiding in a secret place in the ruins of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain? The handsome man asked with a frown. It should be. This is what the great clan lord meant. I don't think I'm wrong. Since this guy isn't dead, that's great. I'll find him myself and tear him into pieces so that he'll die a horrible death. I can't believe he forced me into such a mess and caused me to make such a huge mistake. Even if this guy dies 1,000 times, it won't be enough to compensate for my loss, Yang Yuqing said with rage written all over his face. Then, Yang Yuqing and the rest waited near the ruins of the 7 emotions 6 desires mountain. As soon as Zhuan appeared from the ruins, they would kill him on the spot and take away the inheritance and treasures that he had obtained. As the source of the commotion, Zhuan had no idea that the outside world was shaken because of him. Meanwhile, the fact that he had obtained the Saint Lord of 7 emotions 6 desires inheritance and treasures had been exposed. He had no idea how long he had been walking down the lapis lazuli stairs. Although he could clearly feel the terrifying vibrations coming from his surroundings when he first entered the lapis lazuli stairs, the vibrations became weaker and eventually disappeared as he continued walking down the stairs. He did not care about it at that time as he focused all of his attention on the passage. When he arrived at the end of the passage, he walked into another world. The world was extremely vast and boundless. The surroundings were filled with endless starlight as though he was in a starlight world. Even more, what surprised Zhuan was that the starlight world contained an extremely powerful energy. The energy was of a much higher level than the chaotic energy. He merely took a breath and he felt refreshed. The special energy in the starlight world can be absorbed by my soul directly. Zhuan tried to absorb the energy and realized that the moment the special energy entered his body, it surged into the depths of his soul and completely merged with his soul. As a result, his divine soul had grown a little stronger. Zhuan understood that the energy was specially used to strengthen and nourish the soul. Zhuan did not continue to absorb the special energy. Instead, he began to perform his movement skill and started to explore the starlight world like a bolt of lightning. Zhuan shuttled through the starlight world for a short while and stopped near a spot of starlight. He realized that there was something in the starlight. When he saw it clearly, he was shocked. Chapter 4257. Inside the ball of starlight, there was a ginseng that was more translucent than jade. This ginseng was in the shape of a baby, with delicate facial features and limbs. At this moment, it opened its eyes and stared curiously at Jun. Spiritual sage ginseng? This is a second sky of the eternal realm divine medicine. Juan was shocked. A second sky of the eternal realm divine medicine was rare in the world, and he had not obtained one until now. What? He knew that this level of divine medicine had an unimaginable effect on the cultivation of cosmic dharma experts. If it was a necessary ingredient to refine a second sky of the eternal realm divine pill. Juan took a deep breath and stretched out his right hand, intending to grab the ginseng. Only, however, he soon encountered an obstacle. A terrifying wave surged out from the ball of starlight. Juan snorted and could not help but retreat, looking at the starlight in front of him in horror. This wave was so terrifying that it made Juan's mind tremble. At that moment, he felt that he was not facing a ball of starlight, but a condescending god. This starlight is not ordinary starlight. It's probably the wave of reverse ancient starlight. Juan's eyes were dignified. Reverse ancient starlight was the third realm of the great carefree realm, far superior to universal calamity and cosmic dharma. As far as he knew, the inner world of reverse ancient starlight cultivators was completely different from universal calamity and cosmic dharma. The universal world of universal calamity was a barren world containing the power of countless calamities. When it gradually evolved and became spiritual, it would turn into cosmic dharma and form a variety of forms. Cosmic dharma further evolved and transformed into a chaotic starlight world. At this moment, the starlight world had begun to have spirituality. In the later stage, it would evolve into a variety of starlight clusters and complete dharma. The starlight power in the starlight world was extremely terrifying. Each starlight was enough to destroy any cosmic dharma world, unless someone's cosmic dharma was heaven-defying. So, Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires is a supreme expert from the defying starlight realm. No wonder the Grand Patriarch of Nuwa clan would plan for so many years in Mount 7 Emotions and 6 Desires, all for the sake of Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires' legacy and treasures. Juan muttered to himself. He wasn't too interested in the 7 Emotions 6 Desires' Holy Lord's inheritance. The primordial technique he cultivated was unfathomably profound, far surpassing the 7 Emotions 6 Desires' Holy Lord. However, he was very interested in the 7 Emotions 6 Desires' Holy Lord's treasure. In verse, an expert at the level of Gu Xingguang was considered a true expert in the entire 100 outer domains. Such an expert would be valued even in a super or invincible realm. The value of such a powerhouse's treasure was absolutely immeasurable. Juan kept flashing through the starlight world. He realized that every ball of starlight contained the corresponding resources and treasures, such as divine elixirs, divine medicines, various cultivation techniques, divine weapons, and so on. What surprised Juan even more was that he also found divine herbs, divine pills, and divine weapons at the third heavens of eternal realm, all of which were located in the deepest part of the starry sky world. Only, however, divine herbs, divine pills, and divine weapons at this level were extremely rare. Among them, there were only 3 divine herbs and 1 bottle of divine pills. As for the divine weapon, it should be the life divine weapon of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires' Holy Lord. In addition, he also counted the number of divine weapons and divine herbs at the second heavens of eternal realm. There were at least dozens of them. There were even more resources at the first heavens of eternal realm, so much so that Juan was dazzled. As expected of an expert at the level of Gu Xingguang, he has accumulated so many resources. Wen's eyes shone brightly. These resources should be enough for him to create a powerful domain force. However, the variety of resources in the starry sky world was not something that could be taken casually. This was because each resource was wrapped in starlight with a corresponding intensity. For example, the starlight wrapped in divine herbs and divine pills at the second heavens of eternal realm had reached the peak of the cosmic aspect. With Zhuan's current strength was not enough to break through this level of starlight. Unless he could break through the great universe tribulation, it might be possible. While the starlight intensity of resources at the first heavens of eternal realm and below was not so strong, Zhuan could easily break through it and take out the resources inside. I don't know if Wushang had entered this world before. One looked around. Since Moyan Wushang had obtained the other half of the inheritance of the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires, he should have also been to this world. Maybe he had left some clues here. Only yes, after searching several laps, Zhuan did not find any clues about Moyan Wushang. Instead, he found another remnant map in a mass of starlight. The starlight wrapped around the remnant map was not strong. Zhuan easily broke it and put it away. Didn't Wushang enter here before? In the process of searching, Zhuan also found that all the resources in the starry sky world were intact. The starlight on the surface was not damaged. This also meant that no one else had entered this starry sky world before him. Boy, don't wander around there. You're making me annoyed. When Zhuan passed by a spot of starlight, an impatient voice interrupted him. Chapter 4258. By the way, the other inheritor has received the other half of the master's inheritance, so I can actually track her location. Kai and I sat on the top of the tower, swinging her slender white legs. Do you know where she is now? Zhuan's eyes rekindled with hope as he asked. Kai's big eyes flashed with a sly light and she laughed. I can't tell you now. After all, you may not be able to leave the Golden Crow Mountain range alive. Wen frowned and said in a deep voice, Do you think I am no match for the Nuwa clan's guardian in the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain range? Even if I am no match for him, that guardian can't kill me. Kai and I shook her head and laughed. That's just a small fry. The real test is yet to come. I am very optimistic about your performance. Also, this starry sky world was left by the master for the Fated One. Since you were asked to enter this place, you are the Fated One. Take this. Kai and I waved her slender hand, and a ray of starlight fell on Zhuan's palm. As the light faded away, Zhuan discovered that at some point in time, a 5-pointed platinum star mark had appeared on his palm. This is the mark of the starry sky world. With this mark, you have 3 chances to enter the starry sky world. As long as you can break the starlight around me with your own strength within these 3 times, you will have the right to control the entire starry sky world. Kai and I said. Zhuan frowned. Controlling the starry sky world was secondary to him. He just wanted to know the whereabouts of Moyan Wushang. As I said, as long as you can leave the Golden Crow Mountain range alive, I will inform you of the other inheritor's location through this starry sky world. Also, in the starry sky world, the flow of time is 1,500 times faster than the outside world. You don't have to rush out. The starlight energy of the starlight world is extremely beneficial to a cultivator's soul. You're so weak. If you cultivate here, you can quickly strengthen your soul. If you cultivate here for a period of time, you'll have a better chance of escaping. The colored mud said innocently. Zhuan was speechless. Kai's mouth was unforgiving. When she attacked someone, she looked so innocent, making him unable to refute. Same as at the same time, Zhuan was secretly shocked. The 7 Emotions 6 Desires Saint Lord's starlight world wasn't simple. The flow of time was 1,500 times faster than the outside world. It was much faster than Moyan Wushang's 6 Desires ring. Many thanks. After Zhuan cupped his fists to express his gratitude, he summoned Shan Lingyun, Xiao He, and Sherpadian from the great world. What is this place? What a strange energy. My soul seems to have been nourished and strengthened by this energy. When Shan Lingyun appeared, her beautiful eyes flashed with surprise, and she couldn't help but exclaim. Little Black and Sherpadian, on the other hand, were playing with each other. Their faces were also filled with pleasant surprise. The energy in the starlight world was very beneficial to them, especially Xiao He. She was an artifact spirit in the first place, so this kind of soul-nourishing energy was even more beneficial to her. Hey, you actually brought an outsider in. You can't do that. That's cheating. When Kai and I saw the pair of golden boy and jade girl with a divine sword in the starlight world, she immediately protested loudly. She pouted her lips and was fuming with anger. Did the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord say that I can't bring anyone in? Juan asked, amused. I don't think so. Kai and I scratched her head and said timidly. So this is the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord's starlight world. Little girl, it seems like you're the artifact spirit of the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord's natal artifact. Nice to meet you. My name is Xiao He, and I'm from the noble great nether holy dragon clan. After seeing Kai and I, Black's eyes lit up. He approached the 7 treasures pagoda and introduced himself in a suave manner. Same as an artifact spirit, it could naturally feel that Kai and I was much stronger than it. It was prepared to build a good relationship with her so that it would be convenient for it to ask her for help in cultivation in the future. Great nether holy dragon? I don't know. I only know dragons with high-grade bloodlines. You should be a low-grade dragon. Kai and I said disdainfully. Little girl. Black was instantly enraged. However, after feeling the powerful aura from Kai and I, it didn't dare to flare up. It snorted coldly and pretended to be arrogant. Ignorant brat, I won't lower myself to your level. All right, everyone, make good use of the time to cultivate. This is the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord's starlight world. It's a rare opportunity. Don't waste it. Also, the flow of time here is 1,500 times faster than the outside world. Make good use of this time. Zhuowen said. Shan Lingyun and the others exclaimed again. Then, the 3 of them happily chose a place and began to cultivate and absorb the energy of the starlight world. The reason why when summoned Shan Lingyun and the others was mainly because of the special energy of this place. Shan Lingyun was a soul master of speech, and she focused on cultivating her divine soul. Xiao He was also an artifact spirit. Although Sherpatian mainly cultivated his physical body, his divine soul was much weaker than his physical body. If his divine soul couldn't keep up, he would be at a disadvantage in the future. Therefore, he needed to train and strengthen his divine soul. Time passed minute by minute. Zhuan's divine soul was nourished by the energy of the starlight world and strengthened rapidly. In just 3 years his divine soul had broken through the peak of the great calamity of heaven and earth and successfully entered the early stage of the cosmic Dharma idol. While Zhuan's divine soul was still strengthening and strengthening. In the 10th year his divine soul broke through again, from the early stage of the cosmic Dharma idol to the middle stage of the cosmic Dharma idol. Then, at the same time, Zhuan opened his eyes. He couldn't continue to strengthen his divine soul. With the help of the starlight world, his divine soul could continue to strengthen, but his sea of consciousness wouldn't be able to withstand it. Divine soul, the sea of consciousness, was the container of the soul. If the divine soul was compared to water, then the sea of consciousness was a balloon. If there was too much water, the balloon would expand until it burst. Fortunately, Zhuan cultivated the primordial technique. His sea of consciousness was much stronger than that of ordinary cultivators, so it could withstand the divine soul of the cosmic Dharma idol level. If ordinary cultivators who were also at the peak of the ancient star transformation could at most withstand the divine soul of the early stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth, and this was already considered a very impressive talent. With the strength of my divine soul now, if I use the divine soul sword essence, I can kill the divine soul of an expert at the early stage of the cosmic Dharma idol level. However, using the divine soul sword essence of the middle stage of the cosmic Dharma idol level puts a huge burden on the sea of consciousness and the body. I can't use it casually. Zhuowen muttered to himself as his eyes glowed brightly. He stood up and looked around. He realized that Shan Lingyun, Sherpatian, and Xiao He had already stopped cultivating. They had obtained great benefits in the starlight world, and their divine souls had broken through to a new level. Only yes, they weren't as crazy as Zhuan. Their sea of consciousness could withstand the strength of their divine souls, so they didn't cultivate as long as Zhuan. It's about time for us to go out. We've been cultivating in the starlight world for 10 years, but only 2.5 days have passed in the outside world. The big hunt isn't over yet. Wen stood up and summoned Shan Lingyun and the rest into the great world. He said goodbye to Kai and I and left the Starlight World. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4259. When Zhuan teleported out of the Starlight World, he found himself in a charred ruin. This is near the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain? Wen looked around. From the traces left behind, he could vaguely tell that this should be near the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain. However, what Zhuan didn't understand was, how did the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain, which used to reach into the clouds, become a charred ruin? Just while he was puzzled, an extremely strong sense of danger rose in his heart. Zhuan suddenly turned around, and the Taiyu sacred sword appeared in his palm. Then, with a twist of his right wrist, the Taiyu sacred sword drew a thunderous trajectory in the air. Ding! The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. The Taiyu sacred sword collided with a sharp object, erupting into dense sparks. Zhuan groaned and couldn't help but retreat. He finally saw the source of the sneak attack. It was the white-browed old man, the guardian of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain, Yang Yuqing. Yang Yuqing held the saber with both hands. The blade shone with a dazzling golden light, as if a miracle had fallen from the sky. Little bastard, this old man has finally waited for you. Today, you will die without a doubt. Yuqing's eyes were as red as blood. He stared at Zhuan with hatred. The divine saber in his hands ignited with blazing divine flames, and he continuously swung it at Zhuan. The saber intent was like water, and its power was like a mountain. Zhuan's face was as calm as water. The Taiyu sacred sword in his hands struck out like a phantom, blocking all of Yang Yuqing's saber attacks. However, Yang Yuqing was, after all, an expert at the early stage of the universe's Dharma phase. Whether it was his aura or divine power, he was far above Zhuan. Therefore, Zhuan quickly fell into a disadvantage. However, Zhuan keenly sensed that Yang Yuqing should have suffered heavy injuries. Compared to when he first entered the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires cave, Yang Yuqing's aura was much weaker. At the same time, Zhuan was also quite puzzled. He didn't have much enmity with Yang Yuqing. Why did this old man look like his parents had died? Yang Yuqing crossed his hands. The 2 divine sabers emitted a blazing and dazzling divine light as they ruthlessly slashed at the Taiyu sacred sword. Zhuan was immediately forced back, and the High Abyss sacred sword was almost knocked out of his hand. Do it! At this moment, Yang Yuqing suddenly shouted, "Attack!" The 4 experts of the cosmic tribulation hidden nearby immediately rushed over, transforming into 4 black shadows that quickly rushed toward Zhuan. Before Zhuan could even react, the Chenkuan world of the 4 Chenkuan Great Tribulation experts fell like meteorites. The terrifying pressure caused Zhuan's body to involuntarily freeze. Little bastard, you're dead meat. Yang Yuqing's face was ferocious. He turned into a huge 3-headed avatar and used all of his strength. The 2 huge divine sabers slashed down, targeting Zhuan's head. This was a planned kill, which could be seen from the tacit cooperation between the 5 of them. Zhuan's gaze was unusually calm. If it was before he entered the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain, he would have to use all his trump cards in such a situation. But now, he was no longer the same as before. Divine Soul Sword Intent. When muttered in a low voice, he tapped the space between his eyebrows with 2 fingers on his right hand. 5 soul sword intents suddenly erupted and shot out. They respectively shot towards Yang Yuqing and the 4 universe tribulation experts who had attacked him. The surface of each divine soul sword intent burned with blazing golden flames. The flowing flames were like gold, extremely extraordinary. Divine soul attack? You really overestimate yourself. How powerful can a divine soul attack be when you're just an ant transformed from an ancient star? Among the 4 experts of the cosmic tribulation, the handsome man holding a folding fan revealed a trace of contempt when he saw the divine soul sword intent burning with golden flames charging towards him. With a wave of his sleeve, he planned to shatter the divine soul sword intent. Bang! The moment the handsome man's sleeve came into contact with the divine soul sword intent, he felt an intense burning sensation, and then an intense pain came from his right hand. When he focused his eyes, he was so frightened that his soul almost left his body. This was because his right arm had been burned to ashes by the golden flames on the surface of the divine soul sword intent. And his casual attack was as weak as paper in front of the divine soul sword intent. The endless golden flames were like maggots that crawled along the handsome man's right arm and spread to his entire body. The handsome man screamed shrilly. He mobilized all the divine power in his body to extinguish the divine flames on his body, but it all failed. Instead, his divine power became nutrients for the divine flames, causing them to burn even more fiercely. In the end, he was burned into nothingness. When the other 3 experts of the cosmic tribulation saw the handsome man's fate, they felt a chill in their hearts. They all stopped and tried to escape. A youth at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm was too strange. His divine soul attack had easily killed the handsome man at the peak of the cosmic tribulation realm. That's the divine soul fire. This child's divine soul is not simple. It has reached the cosmic Dharma manifestation realm. Inside the 3-headed Dharma manifestation, Yang Yucheng's eyes were about to crack. The moment his 2 blades struck the divine soul sword intent, he couldn't help but take a few steps back. He discovered that the flames on the surface of the divine soul sword intent were the divine soul fire unique to cosmic Dharma manifestation experts. Although Yucheng had warned them immediately, unfortunately, the soul sword intent was too fast. The 3 surviving Chengkuan tribulation experts had already been pierced through by the 3 soul sword intents. Under the burning of the aspect divine fire, they were reduced to nothingness. For with the death of the cosmos tribulation expert, the 4 cosmos worlds that had fallen to the ground shattered and collapsed. The pressure that crushed down on Zhuowen also dissipated as a result. Zhuowen patted his clothes and held his sword in his right hand. He looked up at the huge 3-headed Dharma manifestation in front of him and said, "You've been lying in ambush for so long. Is this all you've got? You've disappointed me too much." After he finished speaking, Zhuowen suddenly took a step forward, and his entire body shot out violently like an arrow that left the bow. Everywhere he passed, numerous explosions that were like thunderclaps resounded out in the air. Yang Yucheng's expression was ugly. He suddenly roared and his 2 blades whistled out like a fierce wind. The entire sky above the ruins was filled with blazing and dense blade light. Boy, so what if your divine soul has reached cosmic Dharma manifestation? That's still only at the early stage of cosmic Dharma manifestation. If your divine soul can reach the middle stage of cosmic Dharma manifestation, maybe I'll be afraid. So, you still have to die today. I'm going to use your blood essence as a sacrifice to my 4 subordinates. Yang Yucheng said. Yucheng's murderous voice reverberated throughout the entire space. Zhuowen continued to close in on Yang Yu City, using divine arts after divine arts to break apart the terrifying saber lights. Just as Yang Yucheng said, the 5 divine soul sword intents that Zhuowen used just now were only at the early stage of cosmic Dharma manifestation. But his divine soul was not only at the early stage of cosmic Dharma manifestation, but at the middle stage of cosmic Dharma manifestation. At when he was hundreds of feet away from Yang Yucheng, Yuan finally encountered an obstacle. The blade light here was too dense, and every blade light flowed with the essence of Yang Yucheng's Dharma manifestation divine power. Chapter 4260. Zhuowen's glabella once again ignited a terrifying golden flame that was even more dazzling than the sun. Yang Yucheng stared at the golden flame between Zhuowen's eyebrows with bloodshot eyes and couldn't help but mock loudly, "Little bastard, the same move doesn't work on me. I'm an early cosmic Dharma adept, and my divine soul is not weaker than yours. Plus, I'm prepared, so your divine soul attack won't cause too much damage to me." That's not necessarily true. Zhuowen's expression was calm. As soon as he finished speaking, the divine flame between his eyebrows suddenly erupted, like the divine flame of a 9th heaven divine phoenix, unstoppable and dazzling. Whoosh! A behemoth-like divine soul sword intent rushed out and fiercely bombarded the saber light barrier in front of him. What made Yang Yuqing's face stiffen was that the saber light barrier he had created with the essence of his aspect divine power had been easily shattered. Bang! The divine soul sword essence rushed forward and slammed into the two swords of the three-headed Dharma power. Endless flowing flames danced between the two swords, looking dazzling and brilliant. A crisp shattering sound suddenly rang out and spread between heaven and earth. Yuqing was shocked to find that his two swords had shattered into pieces. The divine soul sword essence that danced with brilliant flowing flames stabbed into the heart of the three-headed Dharma power like a coffin. Boom! Brilliant flowing flames splashed onto the body of the huge Dharma power, burning it completely and quickly burning it into nothingness. This burning was not only aimed at the Dharma power, but also at Yuqing's divine soul. Yuqing screamed in horror. His divine soul was affected by the divine soul sword essence's divine soul fire. It was as if he was being roasted in a raging fire, causing Yuqing unbearable pain. At this moment, Yuqing only had one thought, and that was to run. He had underestimated Zhuan. This boy's divine soul was not as simple as the early cosmic Dharma power. It had reached the middle cosmic Dharma power. This divine soul attack was too terrifying. Even though he had been prepared, 2/3 of his divine soul world was destroyed, and the remaining 1/3 was barely holding on. Here this time, even if he survived, his cultivation level would drop greatly. The most frightening thing was that with such severe damage to his spirit, there would be no hope for him to enter a higher cultivation level in the future. Bang! Just as the three heads were about to be burned into nothingness, they suddenly self-destructed, and Yang Yuqing took advantage of the gap between the self-destruction to endure the overwhelming pain in his spirit and quickly fled into the distance. Not long after Yang Yuqing flew out, he saw a figure holding a divine sword in the air in front of him, blocking his path. This figure was none other than Zhuan. The moment the three heads self-destructed, Zhuan could tell that Yang Yuqing wanted to use the illusion of self-destruction to escape. Yang Yuqing clutched his aching head and looked at the obstacle in front of him in shock and anger. "You speak too much nonsense. You should just die." Wen's voice was calm as he slashed out with the Taiyu sacred sword in his hand. A death in the morning technique poured down on Yang Yuqing. No. Yang Yuqing roared and wanted to use the remaining Dharma power in his body to fight with Zhuan. But his injuries were too severe, and his spirit world was about to collapse. Just as he tried to use his divine power, he could not withstand the backlash from his spirit world and spat out a mouthful of blood. Even the Dharma power in his body stagnated for a moment because of this. Also, it was this moment that determined his life and death. Zhuan was expressionless as he looked at Yang Yuqing, who had been shredded into pieces by the terrifying sword qi. After confirming that the latter's aura had completely disappeared, he put away the Taiyu sacred sword and left the place as fast as lightning. Outside the Black Gold Mountain range, the leader of the 7 cities, Zhao Tian City, the 7 city lords were gathered. In an instant, the crowd was talking like a tidal wave, causing many cultivators to discuss and speculate. Zhao in the depths of the city lord's mansion, the 7 city lords were gathered here. However, the 7 city lords, who were high and mighty in the eyes of many people, now looked uneasy. He looked respectfully at the beautiful woman sitting on the main seat in front of them. This woman was very beautiful. Her skin was whiter than snow, and she was a beauty who could cause a calamity. The only strange thing was that her lower body was a long snake tail. The beautiful woman sat on the main seat in a dignified manner. There were 2 men standing on each side of her. One of them had a handsome face and was wearing a feathered robe, while the other looked ordinary and carried a sword case on his back. The 3 of them were Nu Jun, Xinyu, and Jian Luo, who had rushed over from Nuwa City. As one of the 3 tribe leaders of the Nuwa clan, Nu Jun's status was respected. Her arrival naturally attracted the attention of the 7 city lords. They had gathered in Zhao Tian City because of Nu Jun's summons. At this moment, Nu Jun was holding a bamboo scroll in her hand and was carefully looking through the information in it. On the table in front of Nu Jun, There was a mountain of bamboo scrolls. Lady New June, these bamboo scrolls have recorded the information of all the participants in the big hunt this time. I wonder if you've seen the information you're looking for? Chen Zhao, the city lord of Zhao Tian City, asked carefully. New June put down the bamboo scroll in her hand and frowned slightly. She said, "Did you really not notice, or are you pretending not to notice? This year, many of the sect's slots have been emptied out to the geniuses from other realms." Chen wiped the sweat on his forehead and said, "We've heard about this. However, the 7 cities are only responsible for giving the slots to the sects from the Nuwa clan. We have no right to interfere with their use of the slots. Even if they give the slots to the geniuses from other realms, we can't do anything about it." New June said calmly, "Then, do you know who the geniuses from other realms are?" Chen Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He lowered his head and bowed. "I think the geniuses from the Beyond Realm leaderboard are here too. As for the details, we're not sure either." "Most of the geniuses on the Beyond Realm leaderboard are here. The top 10 are all here too. Don't you know? You know about the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain, right? In order to organize the big hunt for you, the Nuwa clan has made a huge compromise. However, you didn't report such an important matter to the Nuwa clan. Are you looking down on the Nuwa clan?" New June said coldly. New June, Chen Zhao and the other 8 city lords quickly knelt on the ground. They were sweating profusely and kept apologizing. "New June, did something happen at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain?" Chen Zhao asked carefully. "It seems that you're not blind. Someone broke into the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain. I suspect that it was done by the participants of the big hunt. It could be the geniuses from other realms." New June said coldly. Chen Zhao and the others were pale with fright. They knew how important the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain was to the Nuwa clan. They then thought of the huge explosion in the Black Gold Mountains. Could it be that the explosion was related to the incident at the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain? Suddenly, New June's communication jade talisman lit up. She took out the communication jade talisman expressionlessly. After reading the message, she couldn't help but tremble. She muttered to herself, "Yang Yuqing is dead." Chapter 4261. Silence. The entire place was dead silent. One could even hear a pin drop. The 7 governors, especially, were dumbstruck. Naturally, they knew about Yang Yuqing. He was the guardian of the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain. He was also an early-stage cosmic Dharma expert. His ability was no weaker than the 7 governors. However, now, the handsome lady said that an early-stage cosmic Dharma expert like Yang Yuqing was dead. How was that possible? God Bless and Jian Luo, who were standing behind the handsome lady, were shocked. "Master Handsome Lady, is that true?" God Bless asked solemnly. "Earlier, the God City sent us a message saying that Yang Yuqing's life tablet is broken. Do you think it's fake?" The handsome lady's face turned cold. At the same time, she took out a jade slip and activated it with her divine power. The jade slip shone and projected an image in the air. The image was Zhuowen's face. "This is the image that Yang Yuqing sent to me a few days ago. He's the guy who trespassed on the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain. Now that Yang Yuqing is dead, his death must have something to do with this guy." The handsome lady was expressionless. She looked at the 7 governors and continued, "I checked the information earlier. I roughly know that this guy's name is Jun. Do you know where this guy came from?" The 7 governors looked at each other and shook their heads. They had never heard of Zhuowen. This guy isn't a genius on the Outer Realm leaderboard, nor is he from the Nuwa territory. His background is suspicious. "The 7 of you, I need you to give an order to all the participants of the big hunt," the handsome lady said calmly. Chen Zhao clasped his fists. He was not sure what the handsome lady meant. He asked, "Master Handsome Lady, please give us your order. As long as it's within our abilities, we'll give it to you." Chen Zhao was an old fox after all. He would leave himself some leeway when he spoke. The handsome lady glanced at Chen Zhao coldly and said, "Don't worry. The order that I'm asking you to give is within your abilities. After the handsome young woman spoke of her orders, the 7 city lords were all shocked and turned pale with fright. Master Handsome Lady, this order goes against the tradition and rules of the Big Hunt. Chen Zhao was troubled. But we, the Nuwa clan, have already made things easy for your 7 cities. Don't you want to return the favor? If that's the case, then the friendship between your 7 cities and the Nuwa clan will come to an end. Nu said forcefully. Celestial Zhao and the other 7 city lords looked at each other in dismay. After discussing for a while, they finally decided to carry out the command of the woman. The woman was very satisfied with the 7 city lords' attitude and continued, "Bring the group of people from Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion to me, I need to ask them something." Chen Zhao and the other city lords couldn't help but look at Ling Luo. The Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion's team was under Ling Luo's jurisdiction in Di Luo City. Naturally, the handsome woman's words were meant for Ling Luo. "Don't worry, handsome lady. Ling Luo will go and capture the people from the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion right now." Ling Luo cupped his hands together and directly left the hall. "You guys should go too. After all, the Big Hunt is organized by the 7 cities. This order can only be effective if it is jointly issued by the 7 city lords." Jun waved his hand, and Qin Zhao and the other city lords left the hall as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Not long after, the 7 city lords jointly issued an order that spread throughout the 7 cities. For a time, it caused a great commotion. Dian Luo City, in an inn, Yu Ji and Luan Yu sat opposite each other with a worried face. Suddenly, Zhou Yu rushed in from outside the inn and said in a low voice, "Sect Master, something bad has happened." The 7 city lords suddenly jointly issued an order. Yu Ji frowned slightly and said, "The order issued by the 7 city lords has nothing to do with our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion." "What do you mean something bad has happened?" The Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion's team had already been eliminated. Now, they were preparing to return home. The order issued by the 7 city lords indeed had nothing to do with them. Zhou Yu shrunk his neck and said softly, "This order is related to that." Yu Ji was stunned. Her beautiful eyes quickly regained their calmness, and she said indifferently, "Tell me about it." "The order is that the condition for winning the last stage of the Big Hunt is to kill Zhuowen. Whichever team can kill Zhuowen first and obtain Zhuowen's Jade Token will win. Moreover, it is said that from now on, everyone's Jade Token's teleportation function has been restricted. It will only be lifted after killing Zhuowen." Zhou Yu said with some exultation. Although saying that Zhuowen's withdrawal was all because of Duan Muki, Zhou Yu was filled with resentment towards Zhuowen in his heart, resenting him for leaving just like this and not giving their Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion any chance. Now, he suffered retribution. Looks like that Zhuowen did something that infuriated the heavens and the people in the Black Gold Mountain range. Otherwise, the 7 city lords also would not issue such an order targeting him like this. Yu Ji said expressionlessly. Rather, it was Luan Yu who revealed a worried look and said, "Isn't that senior apprentice brother Zhuo's life in danger now? The order this time violated the Big Hunt's rules, right?" "That's also Zhuowen, he brought it upon himself. Nothing to do with us." Zhou Yu chuckled and said. Luan Yu frowned and glanced at Zhou Yu. Just as she was about to refute, Yu Ji opened his mouth and said, "What Zhou Yu said is right. Right now, Zhuowen has nothing to do with our Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion anymore. We don't need to pity him. Moreover, back then, he clearly had the ability to lead you all to advance, but he kept his mouth shut. This is conniving with Duan Muki's bad deeds. Speaking of which, Duan Muki's personality is just a little impatient, and it's not too big of a mistake. This boy is not worthy of our pity." Luan Yu Ji opened her mouth, but in the end, she did not speak. She could hear that Yu Ji already had complaints toward Zhuowen. She could only secretly sigh in her heart. Suddenly, outside the inn, a group of guards with powerful auras walked in noisily. The leader was a brawny man who looked down at Yu Ji and the other two and asked, "Are you people from the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion?" Yu Ji did not know the origins of these people, but he still answered, "I am the Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion's sect master, Yu Ji." "For you." We are the Imperial Army of D. Luo City. Under the City Lord's orders, we are here to capture you and bring you to justice. Just as Han's voice fell, a group of soldiers surrounded Yuji. The cold gleam of their weapons caused the temperature of the entire inn to drop by a lot. Imperial Army. Yuji's expression changed greatly. This was the elite army of D. Luo City. They were extremely powerful and only obeyed the city lord, Ling Luo. May I ask, what crime have we committed? Yuji forced himself to be calm and asked. You have no right to ask. Come with us now. If you don't, we will kill you on the spot. Han's gaze was cold. The aura of a late-stage universe tribulation suddenly burst out, causing Yuji's face to turn pale. All right, we will go with you. Yuji gritted his teeth. He brought Luan Yu and Zhou Yu and silently followed the group of brawny men. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4262. When the orders of the 7 city lords swept through the 7 cities, the jade tokens of every team in the Golden Crow Mountain range also received the news. Zhuo Wen's portrait was also transmitted to everyone. What's going on? Why are the rules of the big hunt so strange? We have to kill this person before it ends. Does this mean that if this person doesn't die, we'll be trapped in Wujin Mountain range forever? Zhuan is unlucky. He's going to become everyone's target. He's dead for sure. Suddenly, the teams in Wujin Mountain range became excited. In their eyes, Yuan had become the most delicious prey. Only at the end of the order, there was a message that most of the participants did not notice. However, the geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard who had sneaked into Wujin Mountain range were all envious after seeing this message. Damn it! Who exposed this information? Ziyu, let's go meet up with Brother Zhua as soon as possible. We can't let others get the map first. On a hill in Wujin Mountain range, Su Zhou was shocked when he received the order. He called Ziyu and left. At this moment Zhuowen returned to the Abyssal Bone Wasteland. He also received the order from the 7 Castellans. Clang. After he finished reading it, his face suddenly became gloomy. The 7 city lords were clearly targeting him, especially the last sentence of the order, which specifically mentioned that he had obtained another piece of the map. Incomplete, he had never told anyone about the map, and he was the first person to enter the treasury of the Mountain of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. Logically speaking, it was impossible for anyone to know that he had obtained the other fragment of the map if he did not say anything. However, the order from the 7 Castellans specifically mentioned the map fragment. He did not believe that the 7 Castellans would know about the map fragment. The only possibility was that the Nuwa clan had sent experts to the 7 Castellans and knew that Zhuan was not dead. They also knew that he had obtained the inheritance and treasure of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Holy Lord. That expert was actually not sure what Zhuowen had obtained from the treasury. The reason why he mentioned the map fragment was probably to get the geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard to join in on the hunt for Zhuowen. He wanted Zhuowen to be completely isolated. What a vicious move! Zhuo exclaimed. Wen's eyes were gloomy. He had originally planned to enter the Abyssal Bone Desolate Land to absorb the evil chi before attempting the universe tribulation. Now his plan had been completely disrupted by the orders of the 7 city lords. At the very least, he had no time to cultivate now. Found him. That soon. If we kill him, we will be able to stand out in the big hunting game. Not long after Zhuowen arrived at the Abyssal Bone Wasteland, a team of 5 discovered him. All of them shouted excitedly and began to charge towards him without fear of death. They could tell that Zhuowen's aura wasn't very strong. He was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation. Of the 5 of them, 3 had cultivation bases similar to Zhuowen's. Could it be that the 5 of them couldn't defeat Zhuowen? Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He did not expect to be discovered so quickly. Everyone, can I ask you to leave now and pretend that you didn't see me? Zhuowen asked calmly. He didn't want to kill people casually, so he planned to persuade these people to leave first. That way, he could avoid a fight. Oh, are you afraid? If you are, then kneel down and beg us. If you do that, we might give you a quick death. The young man in the lead said smugly. However, Thun shook his head and said, I'm doing this for your own good. Otherwise, you might not even know how you died. The young man sneered and said, "This is simply nonsense. You are only at the peak of the ancient star transformation. Do you think you are a match for the 5 of us?" As soon as the young man finished speaking, Un slowly stretched out his palm and squeezed the void. A surge of power was like a boundless silk thread, instantly wrapping around the young man's neck. Qing let out a strange roar, and his 4 limbs moved irregularly. Zhuowen exerted force lightly, and the young man's neck was completely shattered. Even the soul in his sea of consciousness was shattered by Zhuowen's power. "I'm sorry, but the 5 of you together are far from being a match for me." Zhuowen casually tossed the young man's corpse to the ground and looked coldly at the remaining 4 people. "Despicable! You actually sneak attacked our opponent. You deserve to die. Let's attack together and kill him." The remaining 4 people were shocked at first, and then they thought that Zhuowen had defeated the young man with a sneak attack, and they all fearlessly charged toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen shook his head, and his eyes were cold and emotionless. Since these people wanted to die, he would fulfill their wishes. His body was like a bolt of lightning, and he turned into a black shadow and passed by the 4 people. When he completely stopped, the 4 people behind him didn't even have time to make a sound before they fell to the ground, dead. When Zhuowen killed this team, 2 other teams came from 2 other directions. When they noticed Zhuowen, they all surrounded Zhuowen and attacked him crazily. Zhuowen sighed softly, and his eyes became colder. He knew that when the 7 city lords issued that order, he was destined to be on the opposite side of everyone. In the current situation, it was either you die or I live. The only thing he could do was to kill everyone who wanted to kill him. The strength of these 2 teams was not much different from the first team, and Zhuowen easily killed them. Next after that, a few more teams noticed Zhuowen. However, they were very cautious and immediately found the corpses of the 3 teams that were killed by Zhuowen. They stood far away at the edge of the abyssal bone wasteland and didn't make a move. Zhuowen sat cross-legged in the abyssal bone wasteland. He didn't cultivate but waited silently. He knew very well that it was impossible for him to cultivate now. Only by killing everyone who wanted to kill him in the Black Gold Mountain range would he have time to cultivate in peace. "I, Zhuowen, am now in the abyssal bone wasteland. If anyone wants to kill me, come and find me. I'll be waiting here." When suddenly shouted towards the sky. He used his vigorous divine power to amplify his voice, and it shook the sky and filled the entire Black Gold Mountain range. In an instant, all the teams that were looking for Zhuowen in the Black Gold Mountain range stopped. Then, without saying a word, they rushed towards the abyssal bone wasteland. 7 the teams in the major districts all rushed towards the abyssal bone wasteland. There were almost 100 teams, and in an instant, black shadows were everywhere. This Zhuowen is really brave. Is he trying to provoke everyone in the Black Gold Mountain range? In the ruins deep in the Black Gold Mountain range, a young man in black was sitting cross-legged on the corpse of a huge dragon. Waves of blood-red divine power rolled around his body, and the dragon's corpse under his feet became much shriveled. "Since the remnant map is with him, I'll go and meet him. I can't fall behind Murong Yongye and Wei Tianyan. Once I get the remnant map, I'll be able to obtain more resources. After defeating Murong Yongye and Wei Tianyan, I'll be able to become the number 1 on the Outer Realm Heavenly list." The young man in black grinned. His smile was cold and merciless. He jumped up, and a blood cloud gathered under his feet. With a whoosh, he soared into the sky and disappeared. Chapter 4263. At this moment, dozens of teams had gathered in the vicinity of the Black Bone Wasteland. Moreover, the number of teams was still increasing. Black shadows were converging from all directions. Zhuowen stood calmly in the middle of the Black Bone Barren land with his eyes slightly closed, as if he was waiting for something. The surrounding teams all kept a distance from each other and were secretly on guard. No team took the initiative to attack, because he knew that Zhuowen was the key to victory in this big hunt. Whoever could kill him would win the final victory. And the reward for this big hunt was different from the previous ones. It was extremely generous, and could be said to be the most generous in all of history. There were many strong teams gathered here, such as the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion, and the 3 Prison of Gods. And the forces behind these 3 teams were the third of the 7 forces in the Nuwa realm, second only to the Nuwa clan. The overall strength of these 3 teams was no weaker than that of the Boundless Demon Sect. And at this moment, the 3 teams were closest to Zhuan. They were standing in 3 directions around Zhuan, and all of them were eyeing Zhuan covetously. Although these 3 teams did not make a move, the other teams did not dare to act rashly. This was because the experts of these 3 teams would immediately make a move if the other teams interfered and wanted to touch Zhuan. Because at this point, several teams had been wiped out by the combined strength of these 3 teams. Anyu Chuanjun was angry at the overbearing behavior of the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion, and the 3 Prison of Gods, but he did not dare to say anything. Zhuan, you should be very clear about your current situation. You are already the target of public criticism, and your fate is sealed. Rather than die under the siege of everyone, it is better to die in our hands. Now, the decision is in your hands, but if you choose to die in the hands of the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, I will guarantee that you will die without any pain, and I will treat everyone related to you well. Wu Yingjie, the leader of the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, looked arrogant as he glanced at Zhuan and said. Although he was trying to persuade him, his tone was full of unquestionable meaning. In his eyes, Zhuan was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm, while he was already at the early stage of the Qiankuan tribulation realm. The gap between them was so big that he did not think that Zhuan would be his match. Wu Yingjie had also successfully broken through in the Black Gold Mountains, and his strength should be similar to Black Lotus. Except apart from the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, the captains of the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion and the 3 Prison of Gods, so they did not take Zhuan in their eyes, and their eyes were full of arrogance and of contempt. Wu Yingjie. She turned to look at Zhuan and continued, the women of the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion are all good at dual cultivation. If you are willing to die in the hands of the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion team, I can let one of my junior sisters have a one-night stand with you, so that you can die happily. Zhuan's eyes were calm. These 3 teams had begun to fight for his right to life and death as soon as they arrived. Did they really think that he, Zhuan, was an ant that could be crushed at any time? However, Zhuan did not lose his temper. Instead, he looked at Fan Lian, the captain of the 3 Prison of Gods, and asked calmly, both of them have made conditions. What about you? What conditions can you offer? Fan Lian was a quiet young man. His appearance was ordinary, but his eyes were very shrewd. He had been silently observing Zhuan's expression. Seeing that Zhuan had taken the initiative to ask him, he was silent for a moment and asked, I don't see any fear in your eyes. Are you not afraid of death? Wen smiled faintly and said, Of course I am. However, with just your 3 teams, you really can't pose a threat to me. In my opinion, your argument is simply unnecessary because you can't kill me at all. As soon as he said that, Wu Yingjie, Yan Yushan, and Fan Lian narrowed their eyes and looked coldly at Zhuan. You are just at the peak of the ancient star transformation realm. Do you think you are one of the top 5 evildoers on the Beyond Realm list? If you are, I might not be able to kill you. However, as far as I know, your name is not in the top 5 of the Beyond Realm list. Wu Yingjie sneered. At this moment, 3 extremely terrifying auras shot out from the depths of the Black Gold Mountain range. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in the sky above the Black Bone Wasteland. Wu Yingjie, Yan Yushan, Fan Lian, you guys are quite fast. You guys are here so early. A hearty voice was heard. A young man dressed like a scholar led a team of scholars and descended in the sky above the Black Bone Wasteland. It's Do Shinshao from the Beacon Fire Academy. It's not just the Fenghua Academy. The Tathagata Buddhist sect and the Water Moon Illusory House are here too. Now, 6 teams from the 7 major forces have arrived. Only the Limitless Demon Sect's team is left. When the surrounding teams saw the 3 teams, they were all in awe. The 7 major forces were recognized as the most powerful forces in the Nuwa realm, second only to the Nuwa clan. The captains of the 7 teams had all broken through the universe tribulation in the first stage of the Black Gold Mountain Range. Every single one of them. Even a single team would be able to fight against this motley crew. Amitba. Benefactors, lay down your weapons and become Buddhas. Buddha Shadow, the captain of the Tathagata Buddhist sect, put his palms together and recited a Buddhist scripture with a compassionate look on his face. Everyone was shocked. Everyone's heart was bitterly cold. Don't look at how dignified and benevolent the Buddha's image was. If he really took action, he would be more ruthless than anyone else. He was like an angry Vajra, extremely evil. While the other team from the Water Moon Illusory House was a group of nuns with long hair. Each of them held a Buddhist whisk and looked very elegant. Water Moon Illusory House's captain, Moon Pearl, was not a stunning beauty, but she was pretty. She silently led her team and stood to the side without saying a word. However, from the powerful aura that kept surging around her, one could tell that she was ready to fight for him at any time. At this moment, Yun became a hot commodity in everyone's eyes. Everyone wanted a piece of the pie. Where are the geniuses on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking in your teams? Why aren't they here? When the 6 teams gathered here, Yun spoke slowly. His voice was clear and cold. Wu Yingjie sneered and said, "Do you want to fight with those real geniuses? You're overestimating yourself. Why don't you think about how trashy you are?" Yun shook his head expressionlessly and said, "I'm just bored. The 6 of you are not enough to fight me at all." As soon as he said this, the whole place was in an uproar. It was not arrogance, but mockery. He did not put the 6 strongest teams in his eyes at all. The cultivators of the 6 teams all glared at Yu. This guy thought too highly of himself. "Arrogant guy, I'll cripple you today and let you know how big the gap between you and me is." Wu Yingjie sneered. He took a step forward and rushed toward Juon. His right fist, which was ready to strike, blasted out like a thunderbolt. His target was Zhuowen's glabella. When the captains of the other 5 teams saw this scene, their expressions changed greatly. Wu Yingjie was not going to cripple Zhuowen. He was clearly going to kill Zhuowen directly. It had to be said that Wu Yingjie was indeed insidious. If he succeeded, the 5 Immortals Divine Sect would win the final victory of the Big Hunt. However, Wu Yingjie's speed was too fast. In addition, it was unexpected. The other 5 captains could not stop him in time. Bookmark for easier reading. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.